Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone tuning in today. My name is Lindy, and I'm joined by my co-host Brenton, and you're watching day one of Binance Blockchain Week. The future is now. This is the first day of a 5-day event that's packed with exciting programming. We've got 20 plus panels and fireside chats, more than 10 major keynotes, and over 80 speakers joining us from all around the world. Before we get into it, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, Dodo, Chromia, Frontier, EasyFi Network, AWS, Stratis, Scale Network, Mathwallet, and Reef Finance. Thank you to our sponsors for your support. And today, we've got a great lineup ahead of us. Can you tell us a little bit more about what's in store, Brenton?
Absolutely. So thank you, Lindy, and thank you to everyone who's watching online today. So today we'll be exploring the theme, Building the Future. So this one goes out to all of you developers, builders, and creators. Today, you'll be hearing from the founders and experts behind some of the blockchain and crypto industry's top projects. And they'll be covering all sorts of topics, ranging from the DeFi boom and the cutting-edge technologies that are powering today's blockchain ecosystem, to the growing popularity of NFTs, non-fungible tokens. Speaking of NFTs, we've collaborated with Dego to give away 2,000 special edition NFTs exclusively for Binance Blockchain Week. So how's it going to work? Keep watching this stream for your chance to take home today's designs. Throughout the show, QR codes will be shown on screen twice a day, and each of these QR codes will be loaded with 200 NFTs. Remember, you'll need to download the Mathwallet to redeem these QR codes. So act quickly as soon as you see them pop up. Finally, we also have an amazing announcement from the Binance X team. So stay tuned for more on that today. But let's get to the topics at hand. So firstly, I'd like to introduce our first session of the day, which is a fireside chat on decentralized finance with none other than Sergey Nazarov from ChainLink. He's renowned for his work on smart contracts and oracles, and for finding new ways to bring the benefits of blockchain technology to the real world. He'll be joined by moderator David Nage, who's the host of Base Layer, which is one of the longest running podcasts that provides insights from founders and investors who are building the future of blockchain technology. So without further ado, take it away, David.
This is David Nage. I am a principal at Arca, a digital asset management firm, and also host of the podcast called Base Layer. I am here with Sergey Nazarov, the co-founder of ChainLink, the world's most widely adopted decentralized Oracle network. Sergey, how are you?
I'm good, David. Good to see you again.
Good to see you as well. We have a lot to talk about here. It's going to be jam-packed of great information, so everyone buckle up and take some notes. I want to start off with the first thing that we want to talk about in terms of DeFi. DeFi has obviously taken off massively over the last year, over 3 years of development and building, but last year was really a pinnacle year for its growth. Why is now a great time to build a DeFi application?
I think there's two very important factors that developers looking to get into this industry should consider very seriously when comparing it to other endeavors they're looking to do. I think the first one is that this industry, while already having over 25 billion in value locked in various applications, is just at the beginning. There's over $1 trillion in value in the crypto asset format that can be put into a DeFi protocol. So while 25 billion is a very sizable number, it is a very small percentage of all the assets that could be in these systems. It basically means there's a huge user base, a small percent of which has made its way into DeFi products generally. And that user base is also continuing to grow. So you have a growing general user base and you have a growing funnel of users going into this format of DeFi financial products. And that's really one of the largest predictors of success for many startups is, am I in a market that allows me to succeed? Am I in a market where people have demand for my products in addition to the products of other people in the market, largely due to growth? And so market is one of the most important things out there when making a early stage technology company. The second nuance that I think has really come about maybe in the last year, maybe in 2020 or the end of 2019, is the fact that infrastructure has finally gotten to a place where developers can easily build their financial products without having to build infrastructure. So infrastructure takes teams of tens and hundreds of people sometimes to get it to the point where it's easily applied by developers while also being secure. It's very hard to build something that's secure and easy to use. And infrastructure is no different. But luckily for developers of DeFi products, we've now arrived at a place where both the smart contract platforms like Binance Smart Chain, like Ethereum, like others, have gotten to the place where people can build decentralized financial products on them. And that there are Oracle systems and other systems like ChainLink that provide data. And when you combine those two dynamics of a platform where you can build smart contracts and the ability to trigger those contracts from external data, and that is now something that developers can easily consume without having to build it like they would have had to build it maybe a year and a half ago, you arrive at an entirely different dynamic and speed and quality at which people can build things. So the efficiency at which you can build a decentralized financial product has also rapidly improved.
Yeah, I always like to think about back in the day, in the early days of the internet, where if you looked at a chart of rapid internet usage and website building, is that you saw in the early 2000s, it kind of hovered. It was really not doing very much. And then in 2006, it plateaued. It hockey sticked up. And one of the reasons why is the introduction of a company called Wix. And Wix allowed you to build a website, basically point and click. Everything was there for you. All the tooling, all the kits were right there for you. And it allowed you to build something quickly, easily, dynamically, and you didn't have to necessarily start from zero. And I think you're absolutely right. Not only do you have a huge total addressable market out there, and I personally think that DeFi could be potentially eating the entire over $100 trillion fixed income market in traditional assets, but you have this amazing tooling out there right now that allows you not to necessarily start from zero, but actually from a point of running in a successful manner. The second question I want to talk about, the next question is I want to talk about, what does ChainLink provide to this massive new ecosystem in DeFi now, and what do you think it's going to do in the future?
So right now, ChainLink provides the majority of DeFi's price data. And price data is very important because it allows those smart contracts to trigger, to react to market events, which is fundamentally what they do. But that is really the tip of the iceberg. That's really the beginning of what ChainLink does as a general purpose, trust minimized form of off-chain computation. So price data is one set of data. Then there's weather data for insurance, there's randomness for gaming, there's sports scores for prediction markets. All those are different pieces of data. And we have already begun putting those various pieces of data on chain. And as we put new pieces of data on chain, we see insurance products like Arbol, we see prediction markets for election results, we see all kinds of things around sporting events. And really, the flow of data correlates to the creation of these new smart contracts in various gaming and DeFi and other verticals like insurance. Beyond that, I think ChainLink will be a method of trust minimized off-chain computation that'll allow all of the world's events, data, and commands to reliably be filtered into all the world's decentralized systems that house smart contracts, such as blockchains and DLTs and others, whether they're in private or public format. One example of this is how ChainLink is already able to do something called proof of reserves, where we are able to initially prove that certain crypto assets are locked up in something like wrapped Bitcoin. Wrapped Bitcoin uses proof of reserves. Then we've graduated that to be able to prove things about bank accounts. So there are certain stable coins like TUSD and Paxos that are now on track to use proof of reserves to prove things about bank accounts backing their stable coin, essentially proving that there are assets behind the stable coin or the DeFi tradable token asset. And now, most recently, proof of reserves has actually started proving things about gold ownership in gold custody systems. So not only does ChainLink provide the world's existing data, but it creates a group of independent agents, oracles, that can generate new data about things like proof of reserves And we are launching this successfully. We're announced with over 70 chains, and we're rapidly launching on many of those chains, such as Binance Smart Chain, where we're now, I think, considered the dominant, primarily used oracle for providing price data, other types of market data, proof of reserves, and all these other inputs. So I think that ChainLink is only getting started in providing price data to DeFi, and it's done a very good job at that. But the same security and decentralized consensus about off-chain events is really applicable to all of the world's data that then needs to be filtered into the smart contract world for consumption. Because without that filtering, it isn't usable. It isn't decentralized or secure enough to be used by these smart contracts. And in addition to that, I think you're going to see things like proof of reserve and various computational uses of Chainlink Oracle networks to prove certain things about the world, even if there isn't a data source immediately available. So I think that the real nature of Chainlink is going to be providing price data, providing more collateral into the DeFi ecosystem by making it reliable, generating all kinds of new categories of smart contract usage through data beyond price data, and being a general purpose abstraction layer that basically enables trust minimized off-chain computation, filtering all the world's events and data into blockchains in both the private and the public format.
So I want to ask you, there have been other instances where data that starts going in, I always think about data that goes into a system as an input and an output system. And so we've seen over the last few years with certain algorithms, things that are more centralized, obviously out there, that the data quality that's going into those algorithms, that's going into those machine learning type of patterns, if the data is biased or it is not necessarily of quality, the output usually is just as bad, if not worse, and it creates bad outcomes. And so talk about that, if you could, a little bit in terms of the quality of data that goes into these systems and what oracles and Chainlink does there.
Sure. So that's a very important kind of question that really developers and people building these protocols have learned to take more seriously over time as there's more value locked up inside of them. And the people that don't take that question seriously, they have serious risks to their protocol and their smart contract. The answer to that is really, once again, decentralization. So if we think about what is the concept of decentralization, it's the idea that you have multiple independent entities, multiple independent computing environments, proving something collectively in larger and larger numbers. Mm-hmm. So this is actually what Chainlink does for the world's data and turns the world's data into validated data to the degree that it can now be used by a smart contract. So in the early days, in the very, very first days of smart contracts in DeFi, and this is part of the reason I think DeFi didn't take off for a long time, you essentially had a very strange story where you had a massive amount of centralization in the smart contract platform. But then that was controlled by an oracle run by a team. It was controlled by an oracle run by, Tim and IT. Mm-hmm. He's a team member of the protocol, and he runs that oracle. And you have this weird proposition where you're basically saying, hey, this is highly decentralized. It's the future of finance because it works in a completely different decentralized mode from all the other financial products out there. And even if the smart contract was written into a decentralized system and audited and proven to be secure in certain ways, the control over that contract comes from two sources. It comes from private keys that can, through multi-sig schemes of certain kinds, approve or make changes to the contract. And then in the case of DeFi, it's highly controlled through the oracle. And so the issue with data is that those setups where the team baked their own oracle and kind of said, hey, I'm going to make my own oracle. And I maybe haven't built a financial product before. I haven't built a system that relies on market data quality. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a single exchange, or I'm going to go to two exchanges. And I'm going to just select my favorite one or two exchanges because on the specific day when I make my oracle for my protocol that I'm going to operate, everything is fine. Those exchanges have a lot of volume. They're providing representative data about, the price of an asset. There's price discovery happening. They're the mechanism to give me accurate price data. That really doesn't work, and that's been proven out through things like flash loan attacks and various other attacks where people have gone on to manipulate, markets in places like Coinbase, and then at the same time manipulating some other exchanges that are more decentralized, and then manipulating both at the same time to create false liquidations. So what ChainLink does is ChainLink ends up sourcing data from the whole market, from hundreds of exchanges. And it's been this way by design from day zero of the network going live. And the reason for that is the application of decentralization as a concept to data quality. Mm-hmm. If we're getting decentralized guarantees from a financial product because it's run on hundreds of different nodes in a smart contract network somewhere,
right,
then we should get that same level of guarantees, if we can, from the data and the triggering side of it. Mm-hmm. And that is what ChainLink does for DeFi. I think for over 70% of DeFi right now, and for over 90% of the public blockchain derivatives market. Wow. Which is heavily triggered and heavily dependent on accurate data. Yep. We essentially are able to source the data from a multitude of sources that are independent from each other. We're able to validate that data through highly reliable nodes, some of which are data providers themselves, some of which are the source of the data, and some of which are data providers aggregating data from various places. And we're able to arrive at consensus about what the final value is from these hundreds of sources, from these tens of independent nodes reaching consensus, to provide a highly reliable single value to settle that derivatives agreement, to trigger things in the lending protocol. And it's that additional level of decentralization that makes what we do so unique. Right. And it's the appearance of that decentralized method for triggering an events-based data that has allowed decentralized financial products to do two important things. One is to come into existence. And then the second one is the ability to generate many new markets without the team that is making the financial product having to build a data product, which is actually how the traditional financial worlds, banks and other places make financial products. Yep. They're not all making data products. They have data products that they consume, and then the banks and the various financial institutions make the financial products using the data products. Yep. And so that separation is part of what I'm talking about as to why now is a great time to build DeFi products. Because if that burden is no longer on your development team, you can rapidly launch many new markets with the data that is provided through something like ChainLink in this decentralized, highly reliable way.
So I want to talk a little bit more. We were just I was alluding to a corollary between traditional finance, and that has obviously been adopted, tenfold. How do we get to adoption now here with people looking at DeFi products that may not be necessarily quote unquote crypto native?
So I think the way we arrive at that is the market drives them towards DeFi more so than traditional financial products. And the reasons for that, in my mind, are very clear. In the traditional financial world, you have financial products with very low yield. You have financial products that have a lot of counterparty risk because it's completely unclear to people how their assets are being managed. And you have a rising wave of inflation that is going to diminish people's assets and the value of those assets and the purchasing power of those assets and so on. I think DeFi counterbalances all of these three forces, which are massive market forces. It has so far consistently provided high yield, which has been very, very powerful for driving people to put more and more value into it. It is inherently transparent because it's on a blockchain using smart contracts. And that means that people can look in and see exactly what a smart contract and a DeFi protocol is doing with their assets and understand the exposure and the risk that they have. And likewise, our system is extremely transparent in what it provides. It provides a lot of clarity about the Oracle networks used by specific DeFi users, why those oracles are reliable, how many of them there are in an Oracle network. All these kind of details are available. So somebody can actually research the end-to-end security of their financial product while also knowing the allocations and the use of the financial product. I think the final point about inflation is actually one of the key drivers now for people going into crypto, is that everybody is starting to understand what fiat money is and how fiat money relates to money printing. And that is a set of terms that up until 3 months ago, maybe, was not a very prevalent set of conversations that people would be having in mainstream media or everyday channels.
Right.
And now it's become a prevalent conversation. And the reality of inflation is something that will lead to a flight to safety.
Mm-hmm.
And that reality of inflation is, it's a world-changing kind of force.
Right.
The decentralized financial markets counterbalance that force, partly because they are so related to crypto, and partly because people, I think, will be able to compose all kinds of products very, very quickly, just like they were able to build web applications very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Once the internet got to a point where you could do that, right? So I think the forces that are going to push people into the crypto format and then eventually into DeFi are global market forces that are very clearly on the horizon and are just going to accelerate from here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the infrastructure to make decentralized financial products has now arrived at a place where people can, a 2 to 5 to 10 person team can efficiently build a world-class decentralized financial product without having to build a lot of the infrastructure that underpins that financial product.
Right. So I want to dig on that a little bit more. So we saw in 2020 that there was just, as some people described it, as a Cambrian explosion of DeFi products. You had the food protocols, you had the other names out there. It was coming fast and furious. And so a lot of them, were able to build highly efficient, very good platforms, but some of them went so fast that they went from their test nets to their main nets in a unimaginable amount of period of time. And some of them broke. Some of them had bugs that were found out. Some of them, their rebasers didn't work. And so when you're talking to developers, as we're talking to a lot of people who are out there right now who are looking to potentially build new platforms in the space, what would you say is some of the best advice you have for them to build something that is not only going to create a massive amount of opportunity for those using it, but something that is highly scalable and secure?
I think there are three important dynamics to keep in mind. I think it's important for them to build their smart contract and DeFi product in a place where it can get a lot of usage, so that there will be private key holders that want to put money into their financial product, and that place has certain scalability and various other features, or whatever the scalability or cost structure is of that environment, it properly aligns with their plans for their product to work a certain way, right? So I think they should build it in a platform that gives them access to users and that gives them access to a cost structure and scalability that they would find useful. I think the second thing that they should do is they should probably seek to participate in the building blocks, Lego, composability narrative, and process around DeFi, where you can build your smart contract in a way where it's not just useful for your application, it's useful for other DeFi applications as a resource that they can use. And that's a very powerful thing, because the services, the DeFi protocols that essentially become on-chain services that all are used by other DeFi protocols for what they are good at is going to drive, I would think, probably the majority of their usage compared to some kind of product that their team also builds. And I think the third and final thing is that they should not reinvent the wheel. They should not build things that they don't need to build, especially from an infrastructure point of view. And if they are involved in making some kind of secure system, they should be very, very careful. And their first option should be to seek an existing piece of infrastructure that provides that security. Because building secure systems is very, very complicated. We have a very large team, passing 100 people now. We have world-class researchers like Ari Jules, who was previously the chief scientist at RSA, who work on this with us. And these are very complicated problems that seek to eliminate the risk of various edge cases. And I think that the people that try to build all of that themselves, they can do that if they devote the relevant resources to it. But if they do that without devoting the relevant resources, I think they are taking a massive, massive risk.
Right.
That in many cases, I'm not sure if they fully understand, because the nature of the problems that they're trying to tackle are unknown to people that don't, think about secure system design as a profession, as an academic career. There are attack vectors and all these things that, we're very lucky to think about with smart people with. So I think you should benefit from the infrastructure that other people have built and make sure that infrastructure meets your needs as a developer for a market and a cost structure. I think you should make sure to make your system something that's accessible through web interfaces and on-chain interfaces, because it's not predictable for you where the volume will come to you from. And you might be surprised to find that your volume actually comes from other smart contracts, more so than interfaces that you yourself build. And then you should take the limited developer resources you have, just like successful web development teams do, and you should devote it to a very focused mission around product and user experience, leveraging the infrastructure that has been built by other people.
Right.
And I think those are the three, I think if you stick to those three kind of sets of principles or tools, you'll probably arrive at a decentralized financial product that is secure, sourcing data from the right places, relying on the right infrastructure, is hopefully in the right ecosystem for your demands around transaction flow and transaction frequency, and having the scope of users that you think you need to actually put money into your system, and that is hopefully accessible by both off-chain web interfaces and other on-chain contracts.
Right. That is great advice. And again, if you are thinking about building something out there, there is a responsibility. Yes, it's cool. Yes, it is exciting. Yes, you might be able to raise a ton of money from investors and venture capitalists out there because you've created something that a lot of people are using and you found some sort of new capacity to get people, paying attention to it. But there's a responsibility there because people, investors, entities are putting hundreds of millions of dollars on your platform. And you have to make sure that it's working right and it's secure. You can't just have that money being eviscerated. And so I agree with that completely. That's great advice. And I hope people really heed that. The last question, as we're thinking just about 2021, after a very tumultuous 2020, you alluded to some of the things about, obviously the global macro in terms of inflation and why people would potentially start looking at digital assets and beyond to take a look at ways of, kind of offsetting some of the global macro forces that we're potentially dealing with. In terms of DeFi, how do you think here in the United States, and obviously, there's going to be people listening to this around the world, people here in the United States become very, very focused just on the United States and they don't think about other emerging markets. How do you think DeFi is really going to take a look or start to affect the global market, not just some of the larger kind of places like the United States or the UK or China or Japan, some of the other places out there? What about, some of the emerging markets that we rarely talk about? How do you think DeFi is going to start playing there?
This is one of the things that I'm personally very excited about, because I think it's going to change the world and people's lives in a much more significant way than people today realize, even possibly in the DeFi ecosystem itself. I think that the real blueprint for this is what the internet did for information for the emerging market, and that people who previously didn't have access to books, to paper reading materials, now through a $50 Android phone have access to Wikipedia and YouTube videos from Stanford courses. And I think that has been an immense contribution to society all over the world from the invention of the internet. I would say that's possibly one of the best and biggest things that the internet has done for the world, is it spread the world's information to everybody on a much more equal footing, and has enabled people to gain an education, understand the world, communicate with each other, not to mention what it's done for e-commerce and the ability to accelerate global trade. I think what smart contracts and what was at some point called the Internet of Contracts is going to do for the emerging market is it's going to make that same size of impact, but on people's financial lives. I think people in developed markets are going to see blockchains improve the transparency of developed markets, improve the fairness of developed markets, eliminate the size of boom and bust cycles from opaqueness, such as the 2008 financial crisis, which, if smart contracts work the way they do now and they were integrated into the mortgage issuance process, I don't think the 2008 financial crisis would have been anywhere near what it was. So the developed markets will benefit by taking this technology and helping it make their markets work correctly in a fair, structurally transparent way to eliminate risk for themselves and the ancillary risk for the world that depends on the developed markets' financial economies. But emerging markets will go from 0 to 1. Emerging markets will go from, I don't have a bank account with an asset that can combat the hyperinflation of my local country's currency. 2, I do have a bank account in my phone with an asset that is immune to the hyperinflation of my local currency. And for people that don't experience or don't even understand what hyperinflation is when in the morning you go to work, by the middle of the day you get a paycheck that day, and then by the evening that paycheck already can't buy you what it could have bought you in the morning. And so it's a very dysfunctional situation that various emerging markets are in different states. And that's just in one extreme example. There are all kinds of examples around providing insurance, providing the ability for people to sell goods to each other, all of which depend on a system of contracts that works. And the unfortunate reality in many parts of the world is that there is not a system of contracts that works enough to enable inflation-resistant bank accounts available to everybody. That doesn't work enough, that's resistant to financial fraud and insurance, and therefore people don't have insurance. And insurance is basically whether people are able to continue living their life and pursuing their economic destiny, or if they're not, depending on what happens with the weather or what happens with some other event that they don't have any control over. So I think that it'll accelerate globalization by allowing people to conduct commerce over the internet in a highly trust minimized way. I think it'll completely change the domestic financial environment of certain countries. And you already see this because certain places are adopting cryptocurrency as a common currency between people within that country. And so even if their local government can't give them savings accounts and insurance and a stable means of exchange, the internet, together with cryptography and decentralization through blockchains and smart contracts, can give that to them. And that is possibly even more life-changing than information, right? Like, what are the two most life-changing things in people's lives? It's education, and it's their ability to pursue an economic destiny, to pursue the economic outcomes they find important. And this is why I think that decentralized finance and smart contracts are really the next evolution of the internet, because a lot of the commands will be sent over the internet, but they'll be sent through the internet onto this parallel internet of contracts that creates a system through which people can have inflation-resistant bank accounts, insurance to combat all kinds of risk, and all these things that we take for granted, but really are life-changing in emerging markets.
It's really well said. One of the companies that I've had the pleasure of getting to know that ChainLink works with is a company called Arbol. And right there, they're working with weather, and they're giving people the ability to understand the impacts of weather. If you're a farmer here in the United States, or if you're a farmer, somewhere in the emerging areas and markets out there, that is critical data for you to understand what the impact of the weather is on your crops. And ChainLink is playing an incredibly important role with that, with the data verification oracles that are playing with that particular protocol. So this does actually have real world implications. I agree with you completely. And I think it has the ability to really enhance society and local economies as well too. So Sergey, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. If anyone wants to reach out, obviously, you guys can go check out ChainLink's website and find out more about them. Sergey, thank you so much for everything that you're building over there, and I'll talk to you soon.
Great to chat with you again, David. Good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergey and David. So if it wasn't clear before, it's clear now. From the events of the past week that people all throughout the traditional financial world are looking for an alternative format. And everyone in crypto knows if we look at the pace of innovation in the DeFi world, it is going to be something that's hard for anybody to match.
Next up, we have a special announcement for those of you watching, and we'd like to welcome Joe Nance from our developer platform, Binance X, to tell us more. What do we have in store, Joe?
Hey everybody, my name is Joe Nance from Binance X, and I want to tell you about our hackathon that's coming up on February 1st called The Future Is Now. And you can sign up at gitcoin.co. We have a lot of great prizes, so we're looking for projects to be built on our Binance Smart Chain. We give you some ideas of what to build, but by no means is it restricted. We really want you to have some unbridled enthusiasm for innovation this time around. So we'll be giving out first prize, second prize, third prize, and honorable mention. For the first prize, there's going to be 3 teams, $8,000 in BUSD tokens. The winning team members get to be added to our priority list for future bounties that we offer, and you'll get Smart Chain gas credits if you deploy on the mainnet. And you'll also get an NFT trophy to display on your Gitcoin profile. The second prize will be up to 5 teams, and that'll be $5,000 each of BUSD tokens. Also gas credit, and you'll get those that NFT trophy. Third prize, there's going to be up to 7 teams, $1,500 in BUSD tokens. Also gas credit if you deploy to the Binance Smart Chain mainnet, and limited edition Gitcoin NFT trophy. And then for up to 15 teams, for honorable mention, you'll still get $100 in BUSD tokens and gas credit if you deploy to the mainnet. Some important dates to keep in mind. The hackathon kicks off February 1st, and Binance X workshops we're going to be running throughout the hackathon. The hackathon lasts for 3 weeks. So it'll finally conclude February 21st, and that's when judging will begin. The Binance X team will be taking care of the judging this time around, and we'll announce the winners by March 1st. All the payouts will be complete within a week after that, and the non-cash prizes will be sent by the end of March. So we encourage you to take part. Again, that's gitcoin.co/hackathon/Binance, and go ahead and sign up. You don't have to sign up before any certain date, just before the hackathon concludes. So we accept your work to be submitted at any time in there. And on our page, on our bounty page on Gitcoin, there's a lot of resources to help you get started. We have several links to show you tutorials, how to deploy your first smart contract on the smart chain, the blockchain explorer, and getting testnet BNB to use, as well as preferred tools, so the smart contract IDE and the development ecosystem and other tools. So go ahead and take a look, and we look forward to seeing what you guys build. Again, that's gitcoin.co.
Meet the new builder. In the new age of rolling up your sleeves and getting your hands dirty. They're in labs, lofts, and war rooms, launching scrappy startups and reinventing big business. They see what doesn't exist, and they make it exist. They know the question isn't if, but when. They know the freedom to fail is the freedom to build, and they don't freak out when they run into a problem. These are the new builders, and we're the cloud that's obsessed with turning their dreams into realities. With the most capabilities, the most innovation, the most customers, and the most experience. We're the cloud that breaks down barriers. When others say no, we let builders say yes. Because we believe everything gets better when you let nothing stand in the builder's way. Amazon Web Services. Build on.
Thanks, Joe. That sounds like a great opportunity for anyone who's interested in building on Binance Smart Chain. And I've got to say, $60,000 in prizes doesn't sound half bad either. So if you want to enter the Gitcoin Hackathon, registrations are now open. Head over to gitcoin.co, that is gitcoin.co.
Up next, we have a presentation hosted by Francois from Stratis on some of the problems facing DeFi today and how they'll be solved. Stratis is, of course, a pioneering platform that brings blockchain as a service to businesses while making it easier for developers to create innovative dApps and blockchain networks. Welcome, Francois.
Hi, my name is Francois de la Riviere, and I'm the head of engineering at Stratis. Stratis was founded in 2016 to establish itself as the leader in native C#.NET blockchain development. Over the last 4.5 years, we have most notably built and deployed the first full node in C#.NET Core, as well as delivering the world's first decentralized CLR, which is short for Common Language Runtime, that executes smart contracts written in C# natively. That means in a nutshell that there is no code conversion to another virtual machine. For this talk, I will highlight what we at Stratis feel are the major problems facing DeFi integration today and how we intend to solve it. DeFi, which is short for Decentralized Finance, is currently leading the blockchain development space. Companies utilizing legacy CeFi, which is short for Centralized Finance, could face the following challenges and/or problems with this process. There is always a risk associated with DeFi applications in terms of non-secure smart contracts. This may hinder or even prevent mass adoption in this space. Using new development languages over tried and battle-tested ones increases the development learning curve for developers and results in a high barrier to entry. In addition to this, but most importantly, the development tooling available for these newer languages is also not nearly as mature. Integration between existing CeFi legacy financial systems and newer DeFi implementations will be complex and resource-intensive, both from a developer and time perspective. There is also a massive lack of decentralized governance when it comes to DeFi smart contracts execution. Stratis solves these challenges by offering improved testing and auditability of smart contracts used for DeFi. This will help reduce the risk while building confidence in DeFi and increase the amount of users crossing over from CeFi systems. The solutions we've built at Stratis allows developers to utilize familiar development and deployment tools to decrease the development and testing time for DeFi applications. Just take the C# language for example. It has been around for decades and to this day is being used confidently in many large corporations around the world. It has matured through many version upgrades, which proves its reliability and endurance as a language to trust. The accompanying Visual Studio in which C#.NET applications are built is also widely regarded as one of the best development environment IDEs and has been around since 1997. Now, if we take the above into account, the integration into existing .NET-based CeFi systems via native .NET calls from our smart contracts will be a greatly simplified process. The adoption of this technology into various companies' IT infrastructure will be seamless, as the code and technology being used is familiar and trusted. There is also no conversion from C# to another codebase in order to execute said smart contracts, which could make adoption convoluted and even confusing. Keep in mind the old adage of choose the path of least resistance. Decentralized governance will be utilized to ensure sufficient nodes on the network approve a smart contract before they can be executed. Although this adds an additional step in the smart contract deployment process, this significantly decreases the risks associated with DeFi by ensuring all DeFi contracts go through a sufficient audit and review process, which will ensure code quality and logic correctness. To summarize, Stratis has developed a blockchain solution which exhibits interoperability for both public and private blockchains. We aim to bridge the gap between legacy CeFi and DeFi financial systems by having developed a fully modular system completely built in native C#.NET technology. Contact us today to find out more about how our solution is ready to solve the challenges of enterprise blockchain development on a global scale. We make blockchain easy. Thank you for listening.
Scale is natively connected to Ethereum and the entire Ethereum ecosystem. Scale is built to power the generational leap in blockchain adoption. dApps built on Ethereum plus Scale will provide a frictionless experience along with high speed, openness, global reach, security, and privacy, all while staying truly decentralized.
Space has grown so quickly, but there's still a lot of building to do. Luckily, companies like Stratis have helped bridge the gap between CeFi and DeFi and make blockchain development more accessible. This brings us to our next session, which covers another important topic that can help solve a lot of problems that some current blockchains face. In this next panel, Best of Both Worlds, Innovation in Cross-Chain Development, our panelists dive into the future of cross-chain systems and interoperability.
So for this, we'll turn it over to our moderator, Tech, for this one.
Welcome to this panel, which is about innovations in cross-chain development. We have a very diverse set of project founders here. Perhaps we can start with some intros, maybe a quick bio about yourself and what you do at the project. What your project does, obviously, and then a fun question of, what's the most meaningful thing for you in crypto? Whoever wants to go first.
Sure, I can go first. So I'm Denko. I'm the CEO of Reef Finance. I have a tech background myself. I started programming in early high school. I started with C++, did some algorithmic competitions for around 2.5, 3 years. Then I moved to commercial programming. So I worked for 2 ERP providers. And then I switched to healthcare. So I worked for one of the biggest healthcare platform providers in Europe. Stayed there for around 2 years. I also led a team last 6 months. And around 6 years ago, I got into crypto and I started blockchain development myself. My first experience was with NXT, which was then, it evolved into Ardor. I also did a lot of Solidity, and I did the whole, Steam, the BitShares, Steam, and some EOS as well. I'm based in Slovenia. I've been living here for over 7 years now, and our development team is also based here.
You want to talk real quickly about what Reef does?
Sure. So Reef, I call Reef the gateway to DeFi for new users. So basically, it's like one layer above the current, DeFi projects, which means that without those DeFi projects, we're not able to build. So it's all about composing and integrating on top of the ecosystem and helping the user to make better decisions. So we have analytics engine, which we have been working on for over 2 years, and this helps basically the newcomer. We are augmenting the space so he knows the risks associated with what he's getting into. So with just a few clicks through Reef, one would be able to get exposed into DeFi based on their risk tolerance, and then they will be able to easily take their profits out and even spend them with a Reef debit card. So we're all about lowering the technical barrier of entry and helping around the fragmentation of the DeFi ecosystem.
Got it. Okay, who wants to go next? And also, for the intro to the project, we can keep it short because we'll have plenty of time to dive into the details later. Perhaps Ravindra, you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm Ravindra Kumar, CEO and founder of Frontier. Okay, I've been working as a programmer from last 12 years. Okay, I started blockchain development from 2017. Okay, before I started working with Frontier, I worked as a CTO at InstaDapp, and then I moved on. I served as a CTO at Woodstock Fund as well. Okay, like Frontier is a chain agnostic DeFi aggregation layer. Okay, we aggregate like DeFi protocols and from different chains into one application. Okay, you can access like all the DeFi protocols from irrespective of the chain. Okay, this is basically Frontier. Okay, like we'll deep dive into the Frontier later when we get into the panel discussion.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ravinder. Who wants to go next, Betty or Johan?
Yeah, sure, I can go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Betty Chen. I'm the co-founder of Akala Network. So personally, myself is like background in software engineering. I was a developer earlier in my career, and then made a transition into the arguably the darker side as a product manager. I've been in tech for a very long time. Been in financial services and various different industry, but personally got very much involved in crypto quite a number of years ago, but then finally made a career transition 3+ years ago to actually start building and product development in the blockchain space. As for Akala is a DeFi hub and also a de facto stablecoin in Polkadot and Kusama ecosystem, and hopefully beyond as well, because we're connecting with more and more layer 1 chains hereafter. Are we also supposed to talk about our sort of views on crypto as well?
I mean, just a fun question is what is meaningful to you about crypto?
Sure. Yeah. I guess, I come from a very mixed culture and also educational background, both in East and West. So I think crypto is truly, I guess, liberating and also enlightening technology that's really able to give people true freedom for their finances. I think like finance is like the first step, and then it's gonna further on empower other freedoms in other areas. So I think this is like give them like cryptographically like guaranteed, but also like guarantee the responsibility as well at the same time, giving them freedom. So I guess we all of us here are well on the path to actually build very meaningful technology as well as applications to elevate, I guess, our society to the next level, hopefully a better world that we are creating going forward. So that's me.
Great, thank you, Betty. Johan, go ahead.
Awesome. Yeah, so for a quick intro on my side, I've been working at ChainLink for around, nearing 2 years now, more than 1 year and 8 months around. And yeah, I've been really focusing on how can we get ChainLink to start helping the DeFi ecosystem grow, right? The DeFi ecosystem is extremely is growing very quickly, is rising very fast. When I started, actually, this ecosystem didn't really exist. It was before DeFi, right? It was really before we had this word, even maybe a few $1 million in value. And my work has really been focused on how can ChainLink provide the tools for developers to start building secure, meaningful applications. Security here being very, very important because we are trying to do something that has never been done before and to onboard people from the mainstream. If you have security failures, if you have issues, if you have hacks, flash loans, all of these manipulations delay our expansion and the adoption of the industry by years. So yeah, that's really what I've been trying to do over at ChainLink for the last kind of year or so. And I look forward to everything we have to come because I think DeFi is going to expand drastically. Probably this year, everything, context in the world, traditional finance, everything hints toward the huge adoption and growth for DeFi. And I'm extremely excited for it and to have ChainLink kind of serve the tools for projects to grow as they should. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Johan. So let's kind of dive into today's topic, which is cross-chain interoperability or cross-chain development. Let's zoom out a little bit and talk about cross-chain, not specific to your project, but how you kind of define cross-chain. And because people see it at different levels of abstraction, right? And this panel actually represents different points of view of how cross-chain could be achieved or how cross-chain should be done. So, from your perspective, what's the definition of cross-chain interoperability, and then, why is it important, and what can it enable that? What kinds of stuff can it enable that we cannot do today? Leave it up to you guys to decide who wants to go first.
I'm happy to start here. Yeah, I mean, the easiest way, I think, to define blockchain, like cross-chain, is making sure that the ecosystem we have can become more homogeneous, right? Like right now, the thing we have is that we have multiple chains which don't share the same technology, which don't share the same protocols, which are completely different. And being able to cross the liquidity and the users from these chains becomes a nightmare, right? How do I cross, and how do I make sure that the private key holders on Bitcoin can start interacting with Ethereum applications, can start interacting with BSC? That's really cross-chain. How do I solve this problem, and how do I make this ecosystem whole? How do I create the bridges between all of these different islands to make sure we have fluid value movements across all of these chains, these protocols? My view about cross-chain is that it's extremely important. I think if we want applications and even currencies like Bitcoin to scale, you probably want to be able to have Bitcoin accessible on smart contract platforms, right? A reason why is because, I'm just going to go into Bitcoin right now, right? And because I think it's where there is the most value right now to have cross-chain assets. If you were to have protocols like Bitcoin and other currencies which cannot be transferred easily to other smart contract chains, you come into a network where basically most of the value of these protocols will be concentrated into centralized custodians, right? It will be concentrated into centralized custodians, which is fine, but you do not want to have what happened with gold, for instance, at the time, where most of the gold was sitting in some central banks, and then you had this huge concentration, and then parties which had huge power were able to do a lot of stuff, right? So I think cross-chain is very important, and diverse cross-chain protocols, both centralized or decentralized, to make sure that you can have a thriving ecosystem where basically people, for instance, Bitcoin holders, can start earning the yields, can start doing stuff with their money, which they wouldn't be able to do otherwise, right? I think that's really the importance of cross-chain. And it's really what's going to take us, in my view at least, to a much more powerful ecosystem, because with all the bridges between these islands, you'll have more value flowing, you'll have more users, you'll have more network effects. So yeah, that's my view quickly on this.
Thank you. Danko, you're unmuted.
Yeah.
You want to go next?
Sure. Yeah. So how I see, I share similar views with Johan. Basically, I think there is this issue, which is fragmentation. We have all of these people, all of these users scattered around, and it's not just the users; it's also the liquidity, right? So the more wrapped assets we create, and the more people are scattered around, as Johan said, we are decreasing the network effect, and we are increasing the technical barriers of entry and the complexity. And the new users don't understand what this means, like when something coexists everywhere. So I think what happens is similar to the traditional financial world, where you have all of these, institutions, which we can call that they serve, let's say they execute certain financial primitive function. And we've seen that millennials cannot really interact with those entities because they're ancient. They don't have, proper mobile apps. They still have to fill forms. Millennials, they don't want to, register an account on something like interactive brokers because it's super complex and legacy technology. So what happens is those layers of abstraction are being created. If you take a look at Robinhood, they don't really do anything except they are building on top of this, legacy infrastructure, but it works. This legacy infrastructure is already established. They're big players, they're regulated, etc. So I think this landscape needs something like that, except that the layer 0 infrastructure is extremely innovative. So, for example, Kala is building like the foundational layer. Like without those things, you cannot compose on top. So that's why like it's not just about cross chain; it's also about composability and being able to integrate. And I think these users that are currently present, we can call them power users because they're willing to go like multiple steps, go on multiple websites, create multiple wallets. It's extremely hard for them. But if we want to take DeFi and mainstream, then we'll have to have a proper cross-chain abstraction layer so that users don't have to cross those bridges themselves like manually, because that creates a lot of confusion and a lot of possibilities for mistakes and losing funds. So yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah, thank you, Denko. Yeah, I think the composability part is very important because if you don't have cross-chain, you need to rebuild dependencies on other chains, right? The same dependencies. Betty, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think just building on top of the two of you have already said, I think obviously, I think probably most of us, if not all, share the view that the future will be multiple chain. It's going to be a multi-chain universe. I think it is both in practical as well as somewhat naive, I guess, to think there's only going to be one chain that can satisfy all of us forever, right? So if the future is multi-chain, I guess you can use an analogy to see the current public blockchains as like intranet, right? They operate, their operations, their states, and also liquidity are currently fragmented. And then the internet, or AKA the cross-chain interoperability, will be sort of the thing or the protocol that connects all of them together. And then I guess the problem will be multifold because initially then you will actually build the cross-chain value. That is just like moving assets from one chain to another. I think that's probably a reasonable problem to solve. But of course, the bigger challenge is how do you actually cross states from one chain to another, because that is the layer that will enable what others have been talking about, the composability at application layer that makes, where the DeFi money Lego are able to actually build on top of each other. And that is actually requires when different chains send different messages to each other, not only you can actually receive that message, but also ensure security and the level of trust that are acceptable. So I think, like with, but I guess, with this year, there's multiple different cross-chain technologies coming out, both from bridges and also multi-sharding technology, both from ETH2 as well as Polkadot, also Cosmos as well. They're all sort of slightly different, but they have offerings that kind of from different angle trying to solve this problem. So I guess the future is quite promising. And also, I think looking forward though, like with crushing liquidity and composable crushing dApps, I think that's what we want. It will actually open up a whole new design space, right? I guess a number of things that immediately you can actually think of. You can stack different chains and different protocols, dApps, contracts as different layers of the financial systems as we have today, and also compose them as financial products and directly serving various customers, right? Trustlessly, and also probably some example would be something like you can collateralize your Bitcoin and use it for proof of stake to earn staking yield. Basically earn staking yield without losing your proof of work asset like Bitcoin precisions, or trustlessly, non-permissioned, censorship resistant, right? And this is something that we're building towards. And I think once this protocols are ready, then it can actually be built quite easily. I guess in a slightly longer time frame, private, public, and consortium chains can all be connected together. You will probably expose certain informations from consortium chain like supply chain information and use the public chain for payments and settlements, etc. So very much works like our internet today, but just based on Web3 technology. So yeah, that's my view. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Billy. Ravinder, you want to weigh in?
Yeah. So there was a lot of inputs from everyone already. I'll probably build on top of the existing things what Denko and Betty and John spoke about. one thing about the composability, another thing about the fragmentation, and and few other things. So what I feel in DeFi, in the blockchain ecosystem, DeFi has definitely proven as one of the main use cases of crypto. There is no question of maybe the only use case of crypto as of now, but like looking back, okay, like what DeFi is doing right now, okay, like what DeFi is doing, we are still in a replication phase. Okay, we are trying to replicate whatever we have it in the traditional finance. Let's say like we had the borrowing system, okay, we had the lending system. We're just trying to replicate that. Okay, like we haven't started the innovation yet in the DeFi. Okay, because of the, even though like there is so much AUM flows through Ethereum, it's still okay. Like my friends, okay, whenever I introduce DeFi to my friends, okay, like in terms of trading opportunities and stuff, they call it as it's a whale fi. It's not a DeFi, because only whales can use DeFi right now because of the gas cost and stuff. So when it comes to interoperability, it will definitely like improve further. Okay, like only Ethereum cannot build solution for everything. Okay, that's where the the importance of interoperability comes between cross chain. Okay, for example, with our experience, which we went to recently, we built a bridge between Ethereum and Binance Smart Chain. Okay, like Binance Smart Chain has a similar product to Uniswap, which is Pancake Swap. Like if like somebody wants to do trade in Pancake Swap, it's negligible fees. Okay, it's very negligible fees. It's very easy. Okay, there was no onboarding friction as well. Like if we can, there was no onboarding friction as well. So overall, like this, like what we can't do right now, like without the cross chain interoperability, is the next like upcoming innovation. Okay, like from the replication to innovation stage to take our DeFi ecosystem, right? Like not just like replicating whatever we have in existing traditional system. We need like money Legos is one of the biggest use case of DeFi. Okay, like when you can take a loan in DYDX, you can interact with multiple protocols, and then you pay back the loan in the same transaction. That's like that's a power of DeFi Lego. But we shouldn't be restricted for only these things. We need to come up with more innovation. Like the cross chain, like interoperability will play a very big role in that sense.
Yeah, thank you, Ravinder. Yeah, I think you make a good point. I do feel like flash loans is one of the coolest things I've seen. You know, that is not seen in the traditional CeFi world, right? That you can take advantage of market inefficiencies, and without risking collateral, without risking capital, just risking fees, I guess, you could take advantage of those inefficiencies and profit off those. So I think that's pretty cool. And to all of you guys' point about just, you know, all liquidity is siloed today, and also DeFi is mostly on Ethereum, but I think like other ecosystems like Binance Smart Chain, Polkadot, all these other chains are building up their protocols slowly but surely. At some point, we're going to have a variety of choices, and to the consumer, it's already kind of confusing, right? Even for fairly technical people, it's going to be, you know, 10x more confusing. So I wanted to kind of dive into DeFi a little bit more, and specifically, like, you know, what are the lowest hanging fruit problems that should be solved for DeFi? Obviously, like siloed liquidity is one, right? Where most of the liquidity is in Ethereum, but then slowly the other ecosystems are building up as well. And you guys have very different ways of kind of bridging that, right? Connecting all these chains together. Let's you know, throw it open and talk about from your perspective, what are problems in DeFi can be solved by cross-chain, and then how you guys are solving it from your different projects that you guys are leading. Whoever wants to go first. Who hasn't gone first? I guess everyone. Ravinder, you have never gone first, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you can go.
So like this is like a follow-up question from like what I just discussed.
Yeah.
Okay. So like what is missing like in the existing DeFi ecosystem? The biggest missing piece was the onboarding, the hurdle. Okay, like there's a big friction to onboard a new users. Okay, it's not straightforward. Okay, so whenever like when you want to solve that kind of a problem, like you need to come up with a lot of innovative ideas. For example, okay, Argent came up with a smart wallet, okay, where you just take the email and then then everything else will be handled by themselves in terms of transaction signing and stuff. And Zengo has multi TSS for signing, threshold signature for signing the keys and stuff. But like the onboarding is still the very biggest friction. Okay, as I'm from India. Okay, like the average age in India is on 30 years. Okay, it's a very youngest country like in the world, and like by virtue of like our infrastructure is really good. Like we have internet access to more than 70% of the population in India. To like in order to get adoption in such big country, like we need to break the barriers. Okay, break the barriers to get users to crypto. Okay, that's where we started like building Frontier Chain. Okay, this cross chain interoperability, like what it bring, right? Like each and every Polkadot, like a Cosmos, all of these like ecosystem is bringing their own thing. Okay, for example, okay, 1 year down the line, like maybe like 1.5 year down the line, if you wanted to build a blockchain, okay, like the pattern used to be like anybody wants to build a blockchain, they usually like raise $40 million and they build a very big team of like maybe 20 people with some of the researchers and stuff. Okay, like even if they build it, the biggest barrier was to bootstrap the network, bootstrap the security in the network. Okay, now like by virtue of Cosmos and Polkadot, we have the validator network. Okay, like validator network. Okay, like which to bootstrap the network is not as difficult as it used to be previously. Okay, these are the barriers. Okay, like which are getting better. Okay, like once we have like more solutions for onboarding and like bootstrapping the security in a much more seamless way, then there'll be more innovation in DeFi and on also cross-chain like interaction as well.
Yeah, and for Frontier, you guys kind of do aggregate liquidity through at a higher level, right? So the users are actually being able to shift their liquidity across different chains.
Yes, like we actually like interact with existing protocols. Okay, we actually interact with existing protocol. Our play is the user experience. Okay, let's say like if you want to do the cross-chain operation, okay, you take an example of any existing protocol which is cross-chain. The most common example is you need to lock some token in some relayer, and then equivalent number of token will be minted on the subsequent chain. Okay, if you want to claim it, okay, if all of this is automatic, like it's fine. Okay, if you want to like add a liquidity in one chain and claim it on other chain, you need to send two transactions. One transaction in one chain, another transaction in another chain. So this is a user experience problem. Okay, like this can be solved like through through Frontier, because we are a multi-chain like wallet.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter for us. Like it's just like I'll just sign one transaction in one step, and I'll sign the transaction for different blockchain in the next step.
Yeah, I think that's a huge problem. Signing so many transactions without knowing what's going on. So Denko maybe is a good follow-up for Reef. I think you guys do have somewhat similar goals, but using more of a decentralized way or a little bit different approach than Frontier.
Yeah, we have similar approach when it comes to this, and the reason why is we are both like we're not building the core like infrastructural layers. So you can say that we are like one layer above, and since currently there is no like a very straightforward way to do like cross-chain actually transactions, we have like it's our approach is more like a distributed where everything happens on the user's phone, but it's not really happening cross-chain. It's kind of the app is like the relayer that it will call different protocols at the same time, and that's like one way to mimic cross-chain functionality. While in theory it's not like truly cross-chain, but it doesn't matter because it's good enough. And as the landscape progresses, when more and better options appear, we'll be able to adopt those as well. But one more thing regarding DeFi that I see is when we talk about financial primitives, now we went like one level deeper than usual because we finally can actually do something. And what I mean by this is I think DeFi is FinTech 2.0, and FinTech 2.0 didn't happen because of over-regulation and of already established players and legacy companies, etc. So now here we have the freedom to build something completely new. And that's why we are getting, into next generation financial primitives. But the issue with this is the complexity of those financial primitives is increasing, and the average, non-tech savvy, the person who doesn't care, they cannot understand them. So when you talk, let's say, about Wi-Fi, like how they're making money, people are like confused. They're like, but how are you creating money? I don't understand this, like stable coin, collateralization, like all those words, they really mean complexity when you talk to normal people. So what we want to do with Reef, we think that we can abstract away even these, where the users can just come, they can log in with their Facebook account or Google account, and they can just put their debit card, they can deposit $1,000, and then they can get into some low risk stablecoin basket, which they don't even have to care what it does. And then with just one click, they're exposed to DeFi based on their risk tolerance. And I think, besides resolving complexities on infrastructural level, we have to solve complexities in terms of people understanding what is it that we are building and how this APY and how this money are being created before we are able to fully onboard and before we are able to go like 100% mainstream. So that's my view.
For Reef, in order to provide that seamless experience at the closest level to the user, you have to your product has to be aware of each protocol that comes available, right? So you can integrate in a seamless manner. Yeah, that's very interesting. I want to go to Johan next on ChainLink, which is very, very different and probably the oldest project, among this panel. So you guys are way at a kind of like a foundational level, I would say. Can you want to talk about how you guys solve some of the cross-chain issues in DeFi?
Absolutely. I mean, look, in my view, ChainLink is all about kind of bridging, right? And the main use case we've had right now, at least on Ethereum, has been the price feeds. I can go into this one very quickly. You were mentioning flash loans actually earlier, so it might be good. There is no reliable way right now to get prices on Ethereum except sourcing data from outside APIs. For instance, you cannot start using something like Uniswap or other DEXs as price feeds if you need timely updates or timely feeds, right? The reason for this is it's extremely easy through flash loans to start manipulating the price of a DEX on Ethereum. And that's what we've seen happen with countless examples in the last weeks, right? I think maybe a few $100 million got lost through Warp, through Value DeFi, through a lot of these projects which were sourcing data from DEXs and which got flash loan attack, right? And here basically now these projects are using us as a way to consume prices. So ChainLink has been bridging the blockchain world to the API providers, the Brave New Coins, Kaiko, all of these providers, the coin market caps, all of these which can provide reliable prices, which are aggregated from multiple exchanges, right? One of the other issues when you're using a DEX is that you're not capturing the whole volume for an asset. You're capturing only one very small part of the volume for a trading asset, and that one is extremely dangerous. We saw with the compound issue recently, where basically the source was Coinbase. Coinbase had a small hiccup on the DAI price, and this kind of resulted in $90 million in liquidations. So prices are very important. It's not something you can kid around, and the only kind of solution right now is getting prices from these APIs. And that's what we've been doing. Now, what's good about cross-chain and what's actually quite good for us is that it's, in the end, it's just a communication protocol, right? How do I get a message that I've locked these assets on this chain to this other chain? Meaning the way cross-chain is done most often is I'm going to lock assets onto a protocol and I'm going to mint a proxy asset onto the other, right? That's what WBTC does. That's what Brand BTC does. It's basically kind of locking and minting the proxy. If you go to a casino, you give some dollar to the cashier, she gives you a token, a chip, and then you can go and you can play at the casino and you come back and you redeem, right? It's the same blocking and locking process. So ChainLink in the end is extremely modular in the way where instead of sourcing data from APIs, it would start sourcing data from one blockchain to another, right? And the main thing you want in blockchain and kind of communication protocols, two things I consider important. First one is decentralization. Do I have enough nodes, enough parties which are involved in this communication? Well, on our side, decentralization, we already have this with price feeds. We're sourcing data from around 21 nodes, 15 nodes, 9 nodes. We can create these Oracle networks, which are pretty decentralized. The second thing is reputation. Do I have players which have enough at stake to start doing this stuff, to start being a custodian in a way, right? Do I have the future Goldman Sachs of the world? Well, on our side, we're not there at the Goldman Sachs level, but we do have some nodes like Deutsche Telekom, which are actually pretty much on this level, which could start having enough reputation to start being a custodian, relaying messages between one blockchain to another. When I say Deutsche Telekom, it's T-Systems, a subsidiary of Deutsche Telekom. And the third one is, do these players have enough value at stake? Am I, as a kind of custodian of some sort, when I'm securing users' value, do I have enough at stake to ensure that the value I'm securing won't be stolen by me? Do I have enough at stake, enough to lose, that if I try to be malicious, I'm going to get slashed and it's going to fire back against me? Well, here, we're also working on staking, and we hope to have something live sometime in the future. So yeah, ChainLink can definitely, it hasn't been our focus right now, but it could definitely be adapted to being one of the cross-chain protocols. And it doesn't have to be only about value, right? There are multiple people who are doing value transfers extremely well, and who we think are doing a tremendous job. It could be about messaging, it could be about many things. So yeah, that's my thinking there. I think what's great about these protocols is that you can begin with a niche and then you can scale and you can have bigger and bigger networks, kind of like what Ethereum did at the time, right? So yeah, hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks, Johan. I think oracles are very interesting because they don't just bridge between chains, they bridge to real world events, right? So some of the interesting things we've seen is like synthetic assets that gets you exposure to CeFi world, right? All the stocks and whatnot in the real world. And eventually it could be sporting events or things that occur that could power insurance, things of that nature. So
yeah, we've already put actually one of our providers independently started putting election data on the blockchain using ChainLink. So you can do anything basically. Yeah. If you want to recreate the traditional system we have today, you need oracles to bridge the chain to all of these providers. And then you can start doing anything, prediction markets, synthetic assets, all of this stuff.
Exactly. That's why it's interesting. Lastly, Betty, you want to talk about Akala, how it solves some of the DeFi issues in regards to cross-chain?
Yeah, sure. So I think previously I mentioned about a couple of the challenges that we currently have, like bridging the values as well as bridging states. I think that, different sort of teams are solving it different ways. And also, I think looking at the multi-chain future, I guess many of the chains out there is trying to do something that the previous generation of the chains cannot do. I mean, for example, like Ethereum coming out, right? It can do something that Bitcoin can never do, right? Smart contracts. I think that's the innovation there. And then the next generation, many layer ones come out, last year, and also probably more so this year as well, start to do things that Ethereum cannot do. If you only exactly the same as Ethereum, just like 10 times faster and cheaper, I doubt that, developers or users will move across, right? Because we can see, these gas fees are skyrocketing. I was trying to do one simple transaction yesterday. It's cost me like $100. I was like, this is not for small folks like me. I can no longer do DeFi stuff on Ethereum anymore. It's for whales, going forward. But still, even with suffering that much pain, you still hardly see someone standing up there, can actually be a good sort of alternative to Ethereum right now, right this moment. I'm sure there will be, someone coming out very soon. So I guess I'm trying to say there is, the innovation there needs to be not just at an incremental level, like faster and cheaper, but also you can actually do something very, very different. So that's why I think going forward, you will see more and more specialized blockchain and then do more sophisticated stuff. And this is exactly what we are doing here at Akala, but also probably Polkadot in general, which is based on the substrate blockchain framework technology, where it allows you, customize things down to its core, right? So in this, sort of like the Polkadot world, the internet protocol that actually allows you to bridge both assets through bridges, right? So for example, on Akala, we had a RAN protocol that directly deploy on Akala as a gateway into Polkadot. So they deploy their asset gateway modules onto Akala that bring, Bitcoin, and then going forward will be ETH and ERC20s landing onto Akala and also serving the wider Polkadot ecosystem. And also, the interesting thing that will happen in a cross-chain world is one asset, you can get different versions of it. So we also connect to, interlay blockchain that trustlessly bridge Bitcoin, and also Snowfork team that trustlessly bridge ETH assets onto Polkadot and Akala, right? So they obviously not gonna bring in this RAN BTC version of BTC, but they're gonna bring like Poker BTC, for example. And there's also other projects doing various different things to bridge assets. So you're gonna see different versions of the assets. I think that's gonna quite interestingly pan out. Like one good thing about that is like choices, right? So folks are able to choose convenience versus, I guess, permissionless or level of trustlessness. But also at the same time, that opens up new opportunities, right? Because there will be arbitrage opportunities for folks to build other DeFi products on top of it, to arbitrage the value across those assets. So that's one aspect of asset bridging. So that's bridging values. And then the other side is this cross-chain message passing that actually bridge trustless state across different chains. And I guess that is probably the next level up. And even for cross-chain message passing, for example, Polkadot provides its own trustless messages. So all the parachains, like all the chains connect to Polkadot, built on substrate, all the message or state can be crossed trustlessly. And that's how we actually can compose different DeFi products together. And of course, the challenge goes to the next level when you move outside of that internet protocol within Polkadot, right? So for example, recently, like Ampleforce deploying on Akala, then Ample is a very special ERC20. You can't just bridge their values. You also need to bridge their state because they rebase, right? Their monetary policy actually will kind of like live and propagate into different blockchains. So that's another challenge up, how you bridge their state. And then of course there's a trade-off there. Do you go trustless from day one, but just like spend whole tons of time and energy to just figure out that solution, or there's also semi, permissionless ways. For example, this Chain Bridge and other folks that offer sort of federated approach to kind of get you across the line and get folks to start using the technology, and then they actually iterate, have a pathway to decentralization. So I think those are things that actually give quite a bit of light in terms of what sort of products that we can build on top of all of these technologies, right? So and then also another thing that worth looking at is real innovation. I think now we are not limited to building just with inside EVM. Once you go cross-chain, different chains, they have different tech stack, right? I think EVM is very restricted, and that also kind of brought up some of the problems that Ravindra, point out about UX, right? So some of the UX problems is not quite the front-end developers not doing their job. A lot of that is actually constrained by the underlying ledger, right? So for example, if I want to actually pay different fee tokens on Ethereum, you can never do. It doesn't matter how cool your protocol is. I can never get around not paying ETH. If I want to pay stablecoin, pay DAI, you can never do that, right? Because that's kind of outside of your innovation box. That you're constrained in that monetary policy provided by the ETH ledger, right? So we are seeing, possibilities that you can actually innovate outside of the EVM, but also make it composable with contracts deployed in EVM. So a small example on Akala is we innovate at a chain level. I think similarly, for any substrate builders, or even like Tendermint is also another framework that allows you to customize at a chain level, right? So we can actually change our economic policy. So from Akala, we allow, tokens like Ample, for example, as a fee token, RAM BTC as a fee token. So anyone can actually, pay, if you transfer RAM BTC, you can just pay BTC as fees, rather than have to conform to one type of economic policy. And that's still interoperable with all the other functionalities within the EVM and things like that. So this is only a very, very tiny example, but that kind of shows the potential of how much more sophistication that we can build into our applications that actually matches up with the real world user expectation, right? I think that's like the next level up for user experience. So and then also another thing is upgradability, because as I mentioned, you can hardly live within one chain and also forever, right? The forever part is kind of scary. Right now I think a few of the chains out there, they kind of have a challenge of, I guess, continuing development, the speed of evolution. And that's not quite to do with the community, but probably more so to do with the tech that are not able to support that governance as well as evolving of software technology. Because, in normal software development environment, where I come from, like development has to continue, right? It's iterative. You never have end of development. You always, put up patches, you maintain it, you upgrade it, you deliver a next version. So the speed of that I think it's going to come out, from this year on, it's going to skyrocket in terms of the evolution speed. So chains that has upgradability, for example, of course, I speak from the Polkadot ecosystem, but I'm sure other chains are also looking at this as a way to move forward. Is we have upgradability that's forkable, right? And then you can just through governance, and then you can have new new tech or new innovation at a speed that you cannot imagine with the current blockchain technology. I think that's also one area that's often overlooked because a lot of this cross-chain stuff actually rely on everybody making changes in their own chain to actually allow the cross-chain stuff to actually happen that works for everybody. So I think this area is also worth looking at as well, and we're doing a lot of work in that area as well. So and then in terms of the positioning of Acala, we are DeFi infrastructure. So I think this field is so new that there needs so many of us to contribute, right? So we are at the very far end of DeFi infrastructures. We're building, sort of the pumping or the piping of the whole financial system in the future. But we actually collaborate with many others. So we are part of, the Chicago DeFi Alliance. We see a lot of folks there actually, kind of like if you think about the traditional finance world of vertical integration, right? So you have folks building at the far, lower end, and then you also have folks that deals with the consumer market and also the financial product offerings that goes into different jurisdictions and have to solve the compliance issues. So my view is that, right now we only attracted 0.001% of the population. So it's better to actually collaborate together and then reinforcing each other's idea of this, decentralization, permissionless and censorship resistant sort of future, like more democratic future that we're all working towards. But we can actually integrate our products all together to actually form that last mile. Because every day I actually think about how do I explain what I do to my mom and dad, and how would they be able to use some of the products that I do? For example, easy to think about for them a fixed income bank account, right? How do they have that product still generating good income without actually knowing all the nitty-gritty that I'm doing? So I can actually do that on my own within Acala because it's a tech company, right? So we actually need to, we are working with some other folks that are actually connecting all the dots together and delivering products all the way through to the very end user, and together, I guess.
Thank you. I think we're running out of time. I want to go through one round very quick, just one sentence. What's next for your project, and from the user's perspective, what are you launching? What new stuff can you do with it? Just very quickly. Maybe Betty, you can start off since you're have been going talking about Acala, and then go for it. What's next in 1 or 2 sentences for Acala?
Sure. So upcoming, we're actually about to launch on Polkadot, as well as its sister network Kusama. So basically all our product offerings, so multi-collateralized stablecoin that you can use Bitcoin, DOT and KSM to collateral to generate dollars, as well as liquid staking. So you can stake DOT and Kusama and generate this liquid assets that can be used for other DeFi products like collateralizing for stablecoin and earning yield while potentially borrowing assets for free or at a very lower fees, and also potentially very first DEX in the Polkadot ecosystem. So those products will coming very soon as soon as we launch. So we're looking for the next couple of months for things to start kicking off. So be sure to follow us, and then we also have a launch event that's happening as our token distribution event to bootstrap the community. And in Polkadot, that's called parachain auctions. So that's quite a novel way of bootstrap a community that pretty much guarantees no loss for people who participate. But helps teams to, launch. That's me. Thanks.
Running out of time. All right, go for it, Ravinder. What's next in 1 or 2 sentences?
We are releasing Frontier Smart Wallet. The reason behind this, a lot of our integrations which we did on Frontier, they wanted to subsidize gas for their users. There was no seamless infrastructure to subsidize the gas. For example, protocols are ready to subsidize gas if we bring volume to them. Smart Wallet, Frontier Smart Wallet will support that. Right after Frontier Smart Wallet, we are coming up with Frontier incentivation protocol. To get incentives for every action you do on DeFi. Okay, that's enabled through Frontier Smart Wallet as well. Okay, and by end of this quarter, like we will be like coming up with first version of Frontier Chain. Okay, like which is in our roadmap.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Johan, you wanna go next? What's next for ChainLink quickly?
Sure, quickly. Yeah, the most important, I think, in my view, is really ChainLink Keepers, which is coming soon. We've been working with Andre and many other players in the space to make sure that ChainLink nodes can start operating as keepers, which means making smart contract maintenance. I think this one will take us to the next level of DeFi, where people can start automating the way their smart contracts works, and also having some really cool features, such as maybe limit orders on stuff like Uniswap, like DEXs. So yeah, I think we open a lot of cases with this feature. So that's the next thing in my view.
Great, thank you, Johan. Danko?
Yeah, so we are preparing to launch the first types of baskets where users will be able to just a few clicks get exposed to multiple DeFi activities, as well as we'll be able to onboard new non-crypto users with a fiat gateway. And on top of that, we are working on the mechanism where people will be able to spend the funds that they earned through a debit card. That's what's coming up.
Great, thank you. Awesome. I think we have to wrap up now. Thank you very much for taking your time to speak on this panel. It's super educational and useful. Thank you very much, and I hope you guys have success in your launches and everything else. Well, thank you.
Thank you as well for hosting.
Thank you very much. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
This planet is at a tipping point. This planet is at a tipping point. The headlines seem to agree. In fact, it might be the only thing we can agree on. We seem to be caught in the same old pattern of booms and busts, haves and have-nots. Pushed to the brink by COVID-19, we find ourselves more divided than ever. And despite staggering sums of money being printed, many continue to struggle. We simply can't afford to wait for the pattern to repeat itself. Today, people are choosing open platforms powered by blockchains, ensuring money flows through the hands of everyday people.
Is that institutional investors are getting engaged.
A new wave of global institutions are investing in Bitcoin and blockchain technology, while demand for cryptocurrencies has reached historic heights, forever changing the way we give to the causes we care about and how we exchange, earn, and spend. The future is decentralized. The world is moving forward. We're building new systems to increase the freedom of money for everyone. But it'll take all of us working together to push past the tipping point.
We have a Binance Smart Chain that's finally released, a $100 million fund for the Binance Smart Chain ecosystem community.
I think that Bitcoin is the solution to 7.8 billion people's problems. They just don't know it yet.
We can watch the world change, or we can change the world.
And we're back. Thanks to our panelists. It's great to see all the talented teams working hard to realize DeFi's potential.
Of course, at Binance, we've also been hard at work at building our own cross-chain compatible blockchain, which culminated in the launch of Binance Smart Chain last September, and its meteoric rise ever since. So next we'll be hosting a live AMA with one of the team members behind the amazing Binance Smart Chain. Please welcome BSC team member Flora.
Hello everyone.
Hi Flora, how are you?
Flora. I'm pretty good. How about yourself?
Great.
Well, welcome Flora. It's an absolute pleasure having you with us. As usual, we've already got a whole bunch of questions ready for you.
Yes, that's right. So we're going to start this session off by going over a few frequently asked questions. These are topics that our BSC community always wants to know more about. So we're going to start off with the first question. All right, Flora?
Yes, please.
All right. Awesome. So the first question, can you give us a quick introduction about BSC?
Yes, so BSC stands for Binance Smart Chain. This is actually a second chain that Binance put together with the developers from the community. The first chain is Binance Chain, and it was a fast chain based on Tendermint. The purpose for that chain was primarily to host the Binance decentralized exchange, the Binance DEX. And that was a order book exchange, so before all the swaps become popular today. And we have heard a lot from the developer communities that they really want to have a capability of building on top of our blockchain. And with our community, we have sort of launched 4 months ago this Binance Smart Chain. So this is a smart contract enabled blockchain. It is a parallel chain to Binance Chain. It is built to be EVM compatible. So you could potentially take your applications from Ethereum immediately to host and launch on the Binance Smart Chain. And the reason we want to do that is we want to sort of contribute to the ecosystem by providing a chain that's faster and also cheaper. For the developer, everything is almost the same, except we actually take out the consensus layer. We put in what we call the proof of stake authority. So the validators have to stake on the Binance chain, our first chain, in order to become a validator on the second chain. And this allows us to have fractional costs of a chain that the developer doesn't have to spend a ton of money on gas. And this is BSC.
Awesome, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Xiaoguang, are you there?
Yes, I'm on. You hear me? Hi, Lindy. Hi, Brenton.
Hi, Xiaoguang.
Awesome.
Well, perfect. So we're just doing frequently asked questions right now. And the second question I'm going to direct to you, Xiaoguang. What are the criteria for selecting projects for the BSC fund?
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure everyone aware of we have these accelerator funds, right? So we announced these 100 million accelerator funds, after our mainnet launch. And initially, the selection criteria is majorly try to make sure we can get fundamental DeFi or DFs infrastructure there, right? Such as like lending and AMM or different all of these foundations, right? So and eventually we are moving to more advanced, different infrastructure such as the cross-chain technology, right? Not only for the assets. Movements from other chain to Binance Smart Chain or vice versa, or even like NFT related and a connected, smart contract, right? All of these kind of advanced technology. And of course, now we're also looking for more, new native or originated innovation ideas. We want to sponsor that one. And of course, we also try to very keen for the team. And especially for some of the complex DApps or like DeFi applications, they need a quite strong teams, not only from technology but also from business knowledge as well, right? They need to have a very strong community experience. So hopefully this can give a little bit of like guideline for the high levels criteria. Yeah.
Thank you. The next question I have is something that a lot of people are very curious about. So maybe Flora, you can answer this one. How many projects have the team invested in for the BSC fund?
Yeah, so the BSC fund was launched last year, late September to early October. Over the course of 4 months, we have identified and are working closely with 20 plus projects, and we have a very strong pipeline. Among these 20 plus projects that we identify work very closely with, I think 1/3 are infrastructure projects, 1/3 are building on DeFi, and other categories include wallets, other type of dApps, developer tooling, ranking, content site, as well as we're very strong on developer communities.
Great. And then moving on with that one would be, what has been the team's focus for the BSC fund? Maybe Flora, you can continue on.
Yeah, sure. So we do think fundamental building blocks are quite important in any early ecosystem. And so we started initially funding project like Bakery that provides a data layer to allow all the different projects to be able to see the data in their project. They have a set of APIs that will make it analyzing data very easy. We also funded projects like Arcade Network that makes BSC to support a lot of traditional games. We also funded a project called DeFi Station that actually provides different ranking for the DeFi projects. So in one glance, you can see all the different projects on BSC, especially whether they are active, whether they have sort of audits already completed. So these are some examples of the projects that we have invested initially, and there's definitely a lot of strong projects in our pipeline. I think Xiaoguang, you also wanted to add some of the projects that you'd like to share.
Yeah, so I think for the focus of the BSC funds, right? So as Flora mentioned, initially we focused on some of the infrastructure related, right? But now I think for the next levels, we try to get more, especially for the original ideas, right? For example, even more original algorithm can happen in the Binance Smart Chain. We worked with some of the projects already invested by Binance as well, right? Like Dodo, and we are working closely with them, try to see how can we get that fully running in the Binance Smart Chain. Another part is we are looking for the mass adoption business cases. Right? It's not like everyone knows that kind of the DeFi is still in the early stage, right? Although even DeFi popular, the users are still quite few and thousands, something like that. We're looking for more, right? Hopefully we can get 10,000 of users for the specific case. The gaming is one of our areas as well. Yeah, so I think this year you will see more this kind of the different focus.
Awesome. Shout out to Dodo, who's also one of our special sponsors. So Xiaoguang, how has the BSC fund evolved since its launch?
Yeah, so I think in the first 2 or 3 months, right, we may focus more on the accelerating some of the initial projects deployment, right? And after that, you may see we also extend not only the accelerating some of the deployed application, we also focusing on the develops, right? We have that launched the grants and also like Hackathon through the Gitcoin and also through the $Hacks HackerLink. So and we also invest. Yesterday, we also joined the African Masterclass, right? Which is also like education perspective. We try to engage as much as possible from the development community. And this is one of the areas we try to make sure we can help them as much as possible to identify the new business model and make sure they can have a better operation, right? So this one are changing right now. Yeah.
All right. And Flora, another frequently asked question, how do you help projects that are funded by the BSC fund?
Yeah, our sort of method actually pretty simple. First, we identify great teams. We believe great entrepreneurs gravitate towards great opportunities. And when we interact with them, we want to find ways to support them. So these could be tailored approaches. For example, there's some project we give them investment, some project we give them development grants, and some projects what they need is really liquidity support. We actually have a team dedicated to support that. And some projects, what they might need is maybe sort of focus on getting users and activity onto their projects. So we sort of help them to connect with other projects in the ecosystem to see how they can all work together. Of course, there's some projects just need technical support, and we connect them with the right people. And there is actually a couple instances that we find developers for projects to build. I think our method, it really is a tailored approach and wanting to support wherever and however we can.
Thank you. So we've also gathered some questions from Twitter. The first one I have is from @LaiflineSN. So the question is, how secure is the blockchain? Is it possible to have a verification process first before creating a coin or token on BSC to avoid scams? Maybe Xiaoguang, you want to take this one?
Sure. I think the security for the blockchain maybe have multiple flavors, right? One is for the blockchain itself, another is for the BFs, as this question mentioned, how to avoid the scams, right? Even like certified the coins there. So for the blockchain itself, I think we do, as Flora mentioned, right? We do introduce the proof of the staked authority, which is quite a new idea. So we leverage both Binance Chain and Binance Smart Chain, right, together to introduce quite secure staking and the blockchain's consensus layer there. And another important part for the blockchain itself, right? So starting from like a very early phase of the mainnet launch, we already worked with several critical partners like Certic and PeckShield, right? We build the fast track security audits and also introduce some of the quick scan for the Binance Smart Chains like DApps applications there, right? So it can help a lot of the app itself, right, to build the fundamental security, providers, right, so can help them to make sure they can build like the app secure and trust the app by leveraging this kind of the service there. And we also, maybe you already hear some of the in the past 2 or 3 months, where we worked closely with different threat intelligence and also even like Binance security, right, to make sure whenever there's any like potential scam there, right, we work together with either Binance security team and also third party, together, right, to make sure we can have opportunities to really can help to respond to these kind of the security incidents there. So that's the blockchain level. But to go to the application level, to specific question for these kind of how to verify this process, actually, we do have a very good Binance Smart Chain, Explorer, right? You can try that one to verify your code directly in the Binance Smart, in the BSC scan. And this one is also one reminder, right? If you find any applications or DApps, right, not verified their coins and their smart contracts, that actually it's a high indicator that's maybe potential risks there, right? So that's the first one. And actually, we also worked with the Binance Academy, also published one article how to spot potential scams in the not only in the Binance Smart Chain but also the different blockchains as well, right? As I mentioned, the token should be verified, the smart contract should be verified, developer community should be very active. Yeah, I think a different approach you can help. It can help you to do your own research, right, to make sure you can identify the legit and the scam projects.
All right, thank you so much. So the second question from Twitter is from Gibcoins. So the question is, what is the roadmap for BSC and the DeFi lending space? Are you working closely with any DEX platforms to bring this to the masses? Maybe Xiaoguang, you want to take this as well?
Sure. I think if everyone have a chance to really follow the Binance Smart Chain Twitter, we almost like every 2 weeks we publish the new DeFi landscape there, and also NFT landscape as well, right? So that landscape you can see that we already provide a comprehensive, infrastructure, including the API, the tools, the tooling, Oracle, right? And we also have a fundamental DeFi like lending, AMM, derivatives related future options. And then we are in the next levels, right? I mean, in the 2021, and we think that the 2021 need to have a better service to cover several areas, right? One is from the our infrastructure layer in the blockchain side, right? So we want to. I think one of the panelists in previous session also mentioned a lot about the cross-chain related. So we absolutely need to build that cross-chain infrastructure much better, right? We have a Binance Bridge. We want to make it more decentralized, permissionless, and we want to also position the Binance Smart Chain as a bridge, not only to another blockchain, but also bridging the CeFi DeFi. I think last month we announced that Wallet Direct, right? That's something we try to make sure we can connect the different world, CeFi DeFi and other blockchains. And then another part is we really think this year is more like institutional year, and we see the DeFi fundamental and infrastructure is there, but we also need to looking for more diverse or new ideas on top of the current DeFi, right? DeFi composition, DeFi aggregation to satisfy requirements from the traditional institutional DeFi, and also attract the real world assets, use cases as well, right? For example, recent example is from we already have like Mirror protocol, right, to help us to even get US stock related assets, synthetics protocol to get the Binance Smart Chain. Yeah, and also we believe this year it's a mass adoption opportunities, right, for the Binance Smart Chain and other blockchains as well, which means more business case can attract more users, right, to the Binance Smart Chain, like gaming, community tokens, these kind of the potential use cases will attract a lot of users there. Yeah, so we are focusing on these kind of the 3 major categories.
Great, great. All right. The next Twitter question, Flora, this question is for you. When will the next projects receiving funding from the BSC Ecosystem Fund be announced?
Yeah, we actually do rolling announcements. So we announce when we have a few projects. The next time we'll probably do it within 2 weeks. And I would encourage everyone to look for really strong projects in the next round.
All right. And the last Twitter question that we've got for Xiaoguang, what major benefits does BSC offer users?
Sure. Actually, we talked a lot about the funds, right? And we also, actually based on the last 5 months, right, we are really set up a quite comprehensive support for the, for the developers. And also not only for the developers, but also the operation, right? For example, as I mentioned, we have this education, African masterclass, right? We have grants hackathon. So if you have any new idea, feel free to, join this kind of the, sessions as a different kind of the grants or hackathon. By the way, our grants and hackathon is not just one time, right? So we will have 8 weeks hackathon in the HackLink. We have these kind of the hackathon in the GitCon. Yeah, feel free to jump into that one, and we will support you starting from there. And we also leverage quite comprehensively in the Binance Smart Chain community and also the Binance community as well, right, to help these kind of projects to grow and to help them to understand how to better operate in and attract more users, right, for their protocol. And when they are really go to the next level, and we also get more investment as Flora mentioned, we have investment, we have liquidity, we have the security audit help, right? Make sure they can go to the next levels of the quality, right? To the either go to the Binance investment or potentially if their community, their quality are very good, they even can be listed in the innovation zone, right? We really can see some examples already happened in the past 5 months, right? For example, the Pancake, bakery, burger, all of these different projects already be listed in the Binance, innovation zones as well. I think holistically we provide a different path or ladder, right, for these kind of the innovative developers. So hopefully they can understand and really can enjoy this kind of path within this ecosystem.
Great. Thank you, Xiaoguang. All right, and on to the live questions, Brenton.
So we have a number of questions flooding in across all the live channels. But let's get straight into some of the more popular ones. So I think the first one will shoot over to you, Xiaoguang. And
sure.
Red Gamer wants to know, how can BSC keep low fees even with high traffic?
Yeah, actually, maybe I should make sure they aware we are not, we absolutely have a very low fee, right? So we keep our typical fee is 20 GW. And however, when there's, because that's majorly, driven by our PUSA, this kind of the consensus protocol there. And but the important part is when really, the high traffic, for example, in one of the super high traffic, if you really want to make sure your transaction need to be included in one block, sometimes you still need to increase your gas fees there, right? But compared with Ethereum or other super expensive network, the BSC is still very, very cheap because we can because our consensus layer, and also we can keep that gas fee around 5 cents US 5 cents, these kind of the levels, right? And of course, high traffic may increase a little bit, but in general, it should be very comfortable for that.
Great, thank you so much. So I think we'll give the next one to Flora. And our next live question is from Green Play Studio. And they want to know, how can I learn how to build DeFi apps on BSC?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. There's actually a ton of resource that you can leverage. There is the documentation site at Binance.org. You can find a lot of information on BSC, a lot of developer-tailored information. We are actually doing a lot of different workshops as well. For example, we're running the Gitcoin Hackathon right now. If you join the hackathon, there's a ton of workshop that helps you get started. A lot of our projects, the developer toolings that we funded, also provide tutorials. And also at Binance X, our department's website, binancex.dev, also have a ton of information that you can get. And then, Xiaoguang, maybe you can share a bit more about this masterclass that you guys are running in Africa.
Yeah, sure. Actually, this one masterclass is like 8 weeks, right? It's not only like introduce some theoretical or just like materials you let you know how to do. They also have a hands-on labs there, so it can guide you, from the front end to the smart contracts to build real examples for one DApp, right? And I think everything is happening from on live, right? So you can follow that one, and starting from this week actually. So hopefully that one can also help, right? And of course we have a Discord, and we have a Telegram, and we have a very active community. They are building the DApps, right? So through this kind of development community, I believe you can find your buddy, maybe even your friends there, right, to help you understand how to build and also build your own.
Brilliant, brilliant. So as you can see, there are a number of resources. So our next question we'll give to Flora, and it's from Jimmy van Nieuwenhuizen. And he wants to know, what is the actual cost of deploying on BSC? So deploying on BSC, does this allow faster listing or free listing on Binance DEX? Flora?
Yeah, so transactions, so the cost of deploying on any blockchain is really mostly based on sort of how complex your algorithm is. But for our mergers transaction, we're seeing around 10 cents per transaction. On the question on listing, I think that's a very popular question. We actually get asked this a lot. The Binance listing team, we actually have a firewall between any other team and their team. CZ actually wrote a tips on how to get listed on Binance on LinkedIn if you guys want to search for that. In terms of building on the BSC, I think it does demonstrate that the capability of the team, your technical execution. So I think that definitely helps. But the decision really lies on a dedicated team to focus on this listing process. Thanks.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Flora. So our next question is actually from @InLoveVET. And I think let's give this one to Xiaohuan. So is it a goal to switch to Binance DEX completely? And will there be no more centralized exchange in the future?
Yeah, I think that's something like, the longer term vision, right? The longer term vision, ideally, and even like CD mentioned, like all in DeFi, right? So I believe the longer term, maybe that's potential. But for the short term, we can really see the, Binance, by the way, the Binance DEX, just for everyone's information, right? Binance DEX is running on the Binance chain, and it's dedicated order book based and online on-chain machine engine there, right? So we absolutely position this one as one of the advantages, right? Because for example, recently a lot of people talking about the RUAP, and they are put the order book and machine engine off the chain or in the layer 2 solution, and actually Binance DEX already implement that one. And this one can really, make sure we can have a better decentralized DEX infrastructure to support, the more high frequent trading. But whether we can really get more CEX there, CEX requirements there, I think that's a potential, and that's a I think longer term vision as well, because nobody before this year, right? So nobody can imagine, for example, Uniswap can have like a 2 billion transaction volumes every day, right? It's unbelievable achievements. And I think Binance DEX, with Binance, right? So we absolutely have this kind of the longer term visions there.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Xiaohuang. So unfortunately, that was the final question, but they've given you access to all of those communities you can reach the BSC team on. So thank you so much, Xiaohuan and Flora, for joining us today. and we'll be right back after a short ad break.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye, everyone.
Welcome back, everyone. So, Lindy, what's next?
The next session is on a topic that many of you can't get enough of. Yes, that's NFTs. So they took the crypto world by storm last year, and they'll continue to be a top crypto trend this year. Hopefully, you were able to snag a special edition Binance Blockchain Week NFT. If you missed out, no worries. Keep watching for more chances to win. Just make sure you've downloaded Mathwallet to scan the QR codes that pop up on screen. And for now, for our panel, NFTs for devs and creators, moderated by Semsel from Binance Chain. Let's dive in.
Hey, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us on this panel about NFTs for devs. So I'm gonna start with a round of introductions with our panelists. Seb, let's start with you. Could you share a little bit of background as well as some information about the sandbox?
Absolutely. Hey, everyone. My name is Sébastien Borget. I'm the CEO and co-founder of The Sandbox. The Sandbox is a gaming virtual world on the Ethereum blockchain where players and creators they can make 3D assets as well as game experience, turn them into NFTs and start monetizing them as NFTs and with sand tokens. I'm also the president of the Blockchain Game Alliance, which is a non-profit organization regrouping over 169 members from the industry, all pushing for adoption and NFT within the gaming industry.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Seb. Great to have you with us. Let's go clockwise in my screen with Tim.
Hi, I'm Tim. I'm CEO of Arcane, and we build actually tools for developers and game studios so that they can create NFTs, onboard mainstream users using our wallet services, and where they can really target the mainstream users. So where we also add the addition of logging in or signing in with social accounts so that you can target not only the crypto users at the moment, but also the mainstream gamers and developers. Arcane is also a member of the Blockchain Game Alliance. And so we're working very much alongside with Binance Smart Chain, with Matic, but also with Sebastian, of course.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Seb. Thanks a lot, Tim. Nacho.
Hello, my name is Nacho. I come from Spain. I'm the co-founder of Juggernaut. Here at Juggernaut, we are building a complete NFT ecosystem with governance and future DeFi synthetics. With an emphasis on full BSC compatibility and evangelism. Right now, our target industry is the NFT market, and we're really excited to be doing this panel today.
Great to have you with us, Nacho. Hey, Brandon.
So hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Smith. I'm the CEO of Bondly. So Bondly is what we consider to be the next generation of e-commerce. So we have a lot of similar characteristics to Stripe and PayPal, but our focus is entirely around digital assets, which includes NFT. Where we differentiate ourselves, especially from the other platforms, is that we also, not only do we promote NFTs as something that can be sold using our platform, but we also have an NFT ourselves. We have a game called the Bondly Collectible Card Game, which is featured on Binance Smart Chain and Ethereum. And through this actually has multi-purpose. It's also a fully functioning collectible game, but also functions as a governance token for our platform. So I'm excited to talk to you more about how that works and more about NFTs in general.
Awesome, really great to have you guys with us. We got like quite a diverse group of people here, really working on the frontiers of driving NFT adoption in gaming, a number of other areas. So looking forward to discussing these topics with you. think you guys like me are super excited that NFTs are really finding their moment to shine at the moment with increasing interest from communities and users. Let's start on the gaming side, Seb. So could you share some more perspectives around what you're seeing NFTs providing and enabling for game developers and for the sandbox?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Like, what NFTs are enabling for game developers, it's a whole new, very disruptive universe in a way like it's never seen before, how developers can be as close to their community of users and involve the community of users through true ownership of the game assets turned into NFTs. This enables new business model for the game developers. This enables new game mechanics as well, if they are able to leverage all the benefits that the ownership of the assets given to their community of users happen. So this can be seen in creating new gameplays around, for example, decentralized finance, DeFi, where you can choose to stake your assets, stake your token to win NFTs. This can enable also new ways of funding the game development, essentially by pre-selling in advance some of the game content. This enables to also appeal to different kind of audience, not only the traditional gamers from the game industry that we've seen in general for the different categories of game, but also potentially people who are here for also the purpose of financial interest, for the benefits of earning a certain reward. And behind, as I mentioned, and I was alluding to, as an opening new business model, one of them we are really excited about is called play to earn, where the users can actually turn their playtime into, monetize their playtime to earn revenue through selling or trading with other users the game asset that they have won through the gameplay. So it's a whole new playset built on economic incentive, but not only, also community-oriented incentive. Essentially, the idea that you're involving the community of users to be part of the whole process of the game production, involving them through the asset ownership. And asset ownership, in a way, is more than just someone owning a game asset. It's really participating with the power of your ownership, of the token ownership, into the roadmap, the community, the overall value of the ecosystem of the game and the game asset value. So it bounds into governance potentially as well, which I think is also a very exciting topic. So overall, NFTs, it's been all the developers that are pioneers in the space are still experimenting for some of them. Some of others are really established now, and we are starting to see some games grow. And there's a lot of innovation happening at the moment in the space thanks to that.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I think super exciting times for game developers trying to experiment with these kind of new business models, especially with player-owned economies, and kind of changing a lot of the dynamics around now having provable digital scarcity as well as ownership and enabling this kind of creators for in-game assets. So how does it change how games are designed for game developers with the introductions of NFTs?
The main challenge for traditional game developers, meaning those who've been used and accustomed to create games before with inflationist economies, is like you have to think in terms of there is a finite supply of token, whether it's a currency, whether it's the game assets themselves. And when there's no more, like you just cannot magically keep creating new one to satisfy the demand. So if you didn't properly think through the economic model, the incentive, the supply and demand of those tokens over time, you can actually have huge misbalances in your game that could affect how future players will be coming into or create barrier to upcoming players for also like if the asset there's too much supply, so there's no value, no interest into holding those assets. So it's overall more complex initially, I think, because there's this learning curve to think like, well, I cannot give a reward for free, like in free-to-play traditional games. Hey, you completed this mission, here's 1,000 of this and a lot of sword and character, etc. You have to think like, if I give something, it's actually something I'm not selling, or actually I'm taking out of my own inventory. So there's this transfer of value, and that changes a lot how you need to think about the game balance, the game design, how you create value overall among all your different game assets. You cannot just artificially create value by saying that, oh, because there's only one copy of it, it's going to be super expensive. The value of NFTs and game items is usually attached to much more than that. Essentially 3 key topics, which are the aesthetics, the utility, in your game, like what sort of benefits and mechanics it enables to, and potentially give you access to in terms of like revenue generation, etc. And but the scarcity at the last point. And people seems that most of the game developers that didn't succeed in the space is essentially because they didn't find the right balance among those 3 items, and it's challenging. And those who succeed, now we can see games like NBA Top Shot, Axie Infinity, among a few others, just to name a few, and they have really understood those from the very beginning. So that's, I think, one of the first challenge for game developers approaching NFTs.
That's really awesome. So clearly, NFTs is driving a lot of change, significant disruption in the gaming space. But NFTs also playing a role in a number of other areas. I think, Brandon, you have really good visibility on this. Be interesting to hear your perspective on where you're seeing NFTs creating value in industries and domains outside of gaming.
Yeah, absolutely. We see NFTs being something that takes off in almost every entertainment industry. The one that I can announce with you guys today is that we're actually working with a major YouTube star named Pelican. He has about 4 million YouTube subscribers, and he will be making a special edition album that's completely NFT based. So instead of making a retail sort of collector's edition for his next album, he'll actually be releasing it via NFT. And why he's super excited about this is there will be an auction specifically for one NFT, but the wallet holder who has that will, over the subsequent 2 months, receive different NFTs over that period of time. And each of those will represent one of the 6 tracks, but will include some awesome things like backstage footage, specific album art, and will just become a whole digital experience that's maybe 14 total NFTs, but as a whole, it's a whole collection. But not only are these things just aesthetically pleasing, but it'll have things like being able to have a one-on-one with Pelican for those who buy it, so they can actually have a one-on-one chat with him for 30 minutes. There'll also be some exclusive mixes that are only going to be published there and not via his Spotify, YouTube, everything else. He'll get some exclusive previews for some of the things, and by holding the NFTs, you'll get a discount to his merch store and some of the other things. So we're really trying to combine this whole idea of a digital experience, especially for music, where we think that, as an industry, we have artists, we have labels, and we have major venues who are suffering in an extreme way post-COVID, right? This was their major thing was touring revenue, and now this doesn't exist. So we see a huge disruption that will happen with this, especially with these type of things. But we have a story like this for almost every industry right now. So because it's happening, so it's such an amazing thing that's happening.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think like now, especially in like an increasingly digital world, where a number of different domains, right, whether it's music, but also sports, which that in-person experience is changing a lot, or is becoming increasingly digital. And now with tools like NFTs, artists, sports clubs, athletes, etc., have a different way of engaging with their fan base. So that also, I think, leads to touching a more broader audience, right? Like a mainstream audience. Let's say people that are not necessarily in crypto or managing their own private keys and these kind of people, right? So I think there's today's certain user experience challenges in order to achieve this mass adoption of NFTs. Tim, interested to hear your perspective here on some of the user experience challenges, as well as how you're seeing these could be overcome to drive increased adoption.
Yeah, of course. What we see NFTs as one of the gateways to bring mass adoption. We've been working with Seb for a while now to support the adoption of mainstream users to get the blockchain wallet. And then they get a wallet that's linked to their social accounts. And I think Seb now, since December, has more than 100,000 active users. A good portion of that comes through our Arcane services in that regard. And one of the things that we see is we always have to try to convert the user to start entering into the ecosystem. So Seb is doing them with his pre-sales. Pretty soon, the gamers will become activated within the gameplay. They need to get the SAND token. They need to get the fiat to crypto. So the onboarding process to get the wallet is for us very easy, but to get that user to be an active user is a little bit more difficult. And we've been thinking into better ways to combine the user onboarding with wallets. And that's how we start to create the NFT marketplace as well. And then we can showcase NFT digital assets. And this is so tangible for an end user, and where we can showcase the different games, the different assets per game, and give them more information where you can start buying and selling the digital assets themselves. And then after that fact, they can start learning, okay, what is a blockchain wallet? Because this is what they get after they purchase the digital item. And it involves less about the blockchain technology it's supported on, because for the end user perspective, it's about that item and what can they do with it and how can they interact with it within the gameplay. And once we can really get that balance where we're focusing it on the assets and on the game and bring it to that level, then I think we're going to see real mainstream adoption of the blockchain network itself.
Awesome. I think on a similar point, interested to hear from the others as well, because I think Nacho, as well as Brandon and Seb, also have probably really good insights on this topic around the learning curve for users, as well as friction points in the user experience.
Absolutely. But Arcane and Team's team has been a great partner and collaborator into onboarding all those users who came through all the various marketing initiative of Sandbox. So one of the Sandbox main proposition value is to turn anyone into a creator, allowing them to make their own NFTs. But not anyone. It means like people coming from being artists, 3D artists working with our voxel creator, or being game maker, like not necessarily having this background into crypto initially. And as we saw more than 50% of users choosing the simplest option, which unfortunately is not MetaMask, etc., but is still like going with your social login or email to be onboarded into the platform. And they really help us reduce the friction on that side. They have provided additional value along the way to enable our users to easily get access to SAND token via various methods, to see their digital asset into their wallet collection. And now they are enabling with the marketplace extra features for trading, selling those assets with even less friction coming really soon. We've been pushing also really reaching out to fans around the world by onboarding many major brands into Sandbox. We think that enabling anyone to create their own stories, adventure, and games featuring their favorite characters from Smurf, Shaun the Sheep, Care Bears, Atari games, Roller Coaster Tycoon is one first step to it. And we're really excited what's coming up in 2021 in terms of brands and content that's will be building and enabling user to use NFTs with them in Sandbox.
Awesome.
So I have a different story as well that I think might be helpful in this context too. So another way that we see, a mainstream adoption for NFTs is using a model similar to what we did for our physical merch store. So we set up a Shopify merchant store, and what we did was if someone spent $40 or more with the merch, they got a free digital collectible on purchase. So I think we're the first merch store in history that's actually paid people to shop and get a sweatshirt with us, because the digital collectible actually went up to a value of around $240. So there's this amazing thing where you didn't have to know much about collectibles or anything relating to blockchain, and just by providing a wallet address, they got access to a brand new world of crypto that they never had before. So we see a lot more things like this where maybe their first actual they're not going to be using a major exchange as their first method of getting into crypto, but actually an NFT will be their first thing that they ever receive.
Exactly.
There's much more tangibility, I think, into an NFT. Whether it's a game asset or any sort of digital asset, it's always represented at least by a picture. And like any visual, whether it's a merchandise product, it's an album from an artist, it's a 3D model or 3D asset for a game, like a character, etc. It's always more attractive to the mainstream than, hey, this is the icon of a currency. And then you have to deep dive into, okay, what's the value proposition behind this token? What are the tokenomics? How does it work? What's the release schedule? Who holds it? Is there a chance that there will be a good long-term usability of this token, so the overall value will increase, etc.? Those are deeper questions that requires the users to make their own deep research on the topic to make a decision. So the thought process is much, much longer versus, hey, this is a great product, you can use it, play with it, buy it, and engage with the community with it. And that's, I think, why in 2021, NFTs are going to really go mainstream. And we're already January, I see NFT everywhere. Everyone in the space is all about NFT. So the year is totally starting great on the topic.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of communities are showing a huge appetite and demand on NFTs, and a really exciting space. I think like just the design space and creativity around how NFTs can be used is really broad, and a lot of teams working on really innovative ideas. I think one of the interesting areas as well is around NFT auctions. Right, so and Seb mentioned it as well for game developers as well as others. It's a kind of very useful tool for fundraising and for distribution and other types of benefits associated with it. Interested to hear some perspectives on whether there's interest from game developers as well as creators around using more exotic and auction mechanisms. Maybe Nacho, I'll be interested to hear from you on this, your perceptions and what you're seeing around this.
Yeah, so I see the price discovery is kind of hard for artists, especially for digital assets. I think that a lot of creators are going to experiment with auction mechanism, because I feel it brings a kind of legitimacy into their work. Now, there are a lot of art galleries that are conducting auctions, and it's kind of hard at first to assimilate, because the artist is not putting the price, kind of the community is putting the price, and it sounds kind of scary at first, but I think it's going to give really a voice and empower a lot of artists, because what I'm feeling is some NFT artists, especially those that are starting out, have some concerns about the real value of their creation. They don't know if someone is willing to pay for them. And I think that auctions are a great way to discover that value process in a fun and exciting way. You can have a lot of different auctions, and it's a process that's very similar to traditional art forms. As I said, the art galleries do auctions and bids and of their most valuable items, and I think that having auctions and bids will solidify NFTs into the mainstream, at least in the eyes of the consumer.
Brandon, do you want to share something?
Yeah, I totally agree with Nacho that that's sort of like coming from the new NFT creator. But what we're also seeing on the flip side of that is, what about the creators or the ones that are already, famous, who are creating it now? So how do we stage gate the process when the demand is massive and the supply is provably limited to a certain set? Well, that's where we're coming up with new auction mechanisms for stage gating. So meaning that if you already have this artist NFT, then you're qualified to participate in the auction that's coming up. Things like this, so that we actually create a method where we can make sure that just the biggest fans, or that the people who are participating, are the ones who can actually buy the NFTs especially when it's in an extreme situation where there's ultra high demand. So we don't have to necessarily just base it around price and increasing the price, because that can sometimes take out real fans out of the picture. So what we want to do is create all these different types of selling mechanisms that make it available to getting the NFTs to the people who really want it the most.
Yeah. Creating some exclusivity amongst the fan base. Yeah, really cool.
Something I think also we can mention is, like, NFTs, they are content that carries their own distribution. So for the first time, and something we're really seeing specifically in virtual worlds and the metaverse, is like NFTs are being showcased there. Users are creating their galleries across multiple virtual world and using those new social places to exhibit the content they've made, create the gallery of content they either own, galleries from artists, games by artists and creators, and potentially use them as a way to bring a new audience into growing the desire of ownership, and then creating the sentiments behind that drive the more demand and the more value perception by this community. Additionally, because those NFTs are scarce, provable scarce, it really builds this feeling that if I'm one of the owner of that NFT, I don't know if it's by choice or intuitively or not, but I'm part of a community of those holders. So it's like being part of this secret group of people who are collecting this or that artist. I'm becoming a curator sometimes, finding the new talents in the space, helping them to promote themselves. So I'm more than just a fan, or I'm a super fan. And that relationship between the NFT creator and the NFT holder, I think, is also unseen before in the space.
Yeah, definitely super exciting. I think we're also seeing now a increasing amount of interest and kind of conversations about the integration of NFTs and DeFi. I think a lot of people are super excited about seeing, for example, lands being used as collateral assets in DeFi protocols, for example, for users to be able to lend or borrow other types of assets. Be interesting to hear where you see where you see this currently, and where do you think it's going. Feel free to jump in, anyone. Maybe we can start with you, Nacho.
Yes, sure, of course. So NFTs, I feel they're amazing, but sometimes they lack certain qualities that DeFi can bring into the equation. For example, liquidity and incentives. As you said, there are a lot of different ways to stake NFTs or to make some tokens work to get NFTs and then participate in a game. And there's a sense that DeFi brings interoperability into NFTs. So NFTs on their own are people's creations, but if you put them, as Seb said, in a community of people, they can truly shine as a whole. You're part of a community, and then you can use those NFTs on other places, on other games, on other protocols. And I think DeFi can help the NFT space grow very, very big, very fast.
Yep. Can add to that a few concrete examples. We've been running various DeFi initiatives involve tokens, and our own tokens sent with various pairs and NFTs. As you mentioned, first, it's true, like lands being scarce and people understanding their utility within our platform, they have been accepted largely by many platforms as collaterals for taking loans. One of those platforms is NFTFi, and it's great to see the growth there for the demand, and also the fact that we didn't build it at Sandbox. It's part of a whole ecosystem enabled by NFTs that other developers providing additional value-added services through the NFTs without even asking the permission from the developer. That's all about that, the Web3 and what NFTs enable behind. So it's super exciting. We have several liquidity mining reward program, back to the DeFi topic, with various pairs of tokens, Sand and ETH, Sand and PGU for Polian games, Sand and Rev with Formula One Delta Time. And for each one of them, we created one exclusive NFT that only if you participate in the staking program here. So as a user, you're not spending, you're just you're just committing to hold your token into a smart contract for a certain amount of time. And in exchange, you receive an exclusive NFT that you can use into a game and receive various benefits from. I found it's really cool, and that as a marketing and user acquisition strategy, it's working better and better than a lot of other initiatives we've seen before with just API, APR stake to earn a certain return in tokens only. So I love the gamification behind and all the experiments happening in the space, even beyond.
Yeah, I would like to add a point if possible. I want to ask kind of something to the whole panel. I think that when there's a movement on NFTs, really the NFTs can shine because the ownership and authenticity, like characteristics of blockchains, work best when you can actually see them. I feel like some users, when they have NFTs and they don't know what to do with them, are kind of stuck, and it's hard for them to see the value on the NFTs. But when they start to see that you can take an NFT and stake it, or maybe participate in some kind of game, and maybe in the future participate in other network like Binance Smart Chain and then Ethereum, I think that there's real value there in the movement of those assets and people being able to see it live.
Awesome. Yeah, I think definitely we have here people that are really the guys at the frontier on the bleeding edge and seeing really some of the new innovations happening on the NFT space. So I think it would be interesting to go around and hear about what are the innovation happening in the NFT space that you're most excited about. I can start with myself. Right? So I think it'd be interesting to see how NFT AMMs start playing out, right? So like for users to be able to trade their NFTs without having to have a counterparty as such. I think a number of different things, but I think that's one that I'm kind of excited about. So maybe we can go with the other direction. Start with Tim.
Yeah, I think for me, I like to look at things pure and simple. NFTs are for me the go-to way to do digital licensing, and where you can take it at the product level, at the item level, and you will see this. I loved Belin's example with the artist, the YouTube artist that you did, the album there. That's a prime example again, where you can say, look, this is how you can license that collection, where you can really create value and where you can push that so that the super fans can take that into account. And we'll see adoption going to creators and services like this, just because here the value is going to the creator, and they're going to doing more and more and more the use of NFTs, because the conversion and the monetization for them is just there.
Seb?
Sure, but you know, as the president of the Blockchain Game Alliance, we're seeing an increasing number of members joining this year that are pure players in the DeFi and gaming space. So it's really interesting, as those are purely new experiments surrounding the space, and we will be dedicating, I'm sure, a couple of panels and talks just on this topic to let the prime players explain what they're doing. The main project that comes to mind that I've seen and so far have been great success are projects like Avegochi or Don't Buy Meme, typically, that that have been quite popular among users and found like innovative ways to create NFTs, a valuable thing that people like to collect while participating into like the different game mechanics behind. From the China side, I hear a lot about Dago Finance as well. I was not able to try it out myself, but I see like they have a large community, very engaged, so it really fits the market as well. Like for me, it's like management game. Traditionally, people have been playing like sport, like football, sport management game, all sorts of very deep and complex simulation. And the DeFi X gaming is probably fitting that category of people who like to play deep in the numbers to understand how they earn things and how the things they earn are actually valuable. And what is great is like we need games for all type of audience: casual players, mid-core, AAA, fan of RPG, fan of MMOs, fan of trading card game, fan of creator battling game, and now management game as well.
Brandon, how about you?
So the amount of NFT we're going to see in the space, probably I could fill out the whole panel with all the stuff that the cool stuff we're seeing with what's going to be happening even just this year. But I'll just stick to a couple. So this concept of creating new digital experiences based on real world events. So for example, you have a YouTuber who's going to have a boxing match with another person, and the outcome of that would actually change the metadata of the NFT. Given certain real world circumstances of what happens. So like you have this new entirely digital blockchain oriented marketing vector that operates as this massive new way to get attention, to get eyeballs, to get everything relating to what a brand is looking for. So there's a ton of really exciting things that are happening on that space. So from our side, one of the simple ones that's coming out soon is we're actually going to be, out of all the products that we're releasing this year, one is going to be what we call NFT swap, which basically instead of having to go to an open marketplace like OpenSea, where you have to pay a certain amount for an NFT, you can actually, if you have an NFT, you can set up a trade with somebody else, and then trustlessly you can trade with another person for an NFT. And that's essential for things like collectible card games, where you might have a duplicate of one, but you're really looking for another one. And then you don't actually have to bring currency into the equation with that. So I think that's a really simple one that we support, 1155 and 721 standards on both BSC and on Ethereum. So I think that'll be something that's really people find really, really useful.
That's awesome. Super exciting to see that. Last but not least, Nacho.
So I had a feeling before learning about NFTs. It was a feeling in my mind and I didn't know how to explain, but I felt like there were always a gap between the real world and the digital world. We spend most of our lives right now looking at screens, computers, phones, and it's kind of like it doesn't feel real in the same way that the physical world. Obviously, we can touch the physical world, we cannot the digital world, but I think that the NFTs can kind of make the digital world feel more real. They can bring in the gap, creating things that are valuable that we can use and we can integrate in our everyday lives. Something like a thing of games or coupons, or domain names, real estate. I think that's what I'm really excited about, to bring the digital world. And unfortunately, with all this pandemic happening, we have to live in this world. It's something that we cannot change. So let's make the most out of it.
That's really awesome. So we're just coming up to the end of our time. A big thank you, Tim, Seb, Brandon, Nacho. Thank you guys for joining us. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for
Thank you, Sammy, for hosting us.
Thank you again, guys.
The amount of NFT applications are truly staggering, and they've come a long way in such a short period of time. This is definitely a space we'll be keeping a close eye on in the months to come.
And now we've come to our last session for today, but it's a good one. We have Mathwallet dialing in to talk to us about the latest in DeFi wallets for next-gen blockchains like Binance Smart Chain.
So we almost made it through one full day without the tech gremlins getting to us, but it seemed that they waited till the end of the day. But we're now down to our last session for today. But like we said, it's a really good one with Mathwallet. So let's move on.
Hello everyone, I'm Eric. I'm the CTO of Mathwallet. It is honored to join Binance Week and talk about our thinking about how build wallet for the next generation of blockchain. So with the growth of next generation, we see there are more high performance DeFi blockchain, such as Binance Smart Chain. So we do see some big trends has emerged. So first, user need low barrier to create a decentralized wallet than before. And second, user do more cross-chain transfer than before. Third, user need more tokens and swap information than before. And four, is user have more wallet accounts for different purposes than before. So because of these trends, Mathwallet released several innovations features recently. So the first feature is to create and restore wallet via social account. So this feature will allow you to create a decentralized wallet via Google account or WeChat account. So if you or your friends is new to crypto, he or she can do with a very simple steps to create a decentralized wallet and do not need to understand and also back up a private key. And if they want to switch to another device, all they need to do is just import the wallet through these social accounts. So that will be very simple. And the second feature is one-click cross-chain transfer. So this feature will allow you to transfer Ether or USDT from Ethereum blockchain to Binance Smart Chain. And it also allows you to transfer them back. Other than Ethereum, we already support Bitcoin and Filecoin as well. So because of the low gas fee on Binance Smart Chain, so after the cross-chain transfer, you can transfer your tokens or participate in DeFi with these cross-chain tokens in a very low transfer fees. And also you can get high APR through yield farming rewards. And the third feature is one-click to view the token information and trade them on DEX directly. So for this feature, you can click the information icon on the upper right corner of the token detail view. And then it will allow you to easily go to the information page of the token on BSC scan. And also, you can trade them directly on the PancakeSwap. So this feature connected the token with the Blockchain Explorer and the DEX directly, and it allows you to verify the token contract to protect you from the scams. And also, it supports you with one click. You can view the token price, the current volume information, and you can do the trading. And the last feature is we support one-click multi-address switching. So if you have multiple addresses while participating in yield farming, this feature allows you to switch between your multiple wallets with a simple click. And it also means you can create multiple wallets in Mathwallet for different usage and security level. For example, you can have one wallet for storage large assets, and another one for participate DeFi, and another one for payment. So at last, Mathwallet will continue to explore and refine the user experiments of crypto wallet, and we also welcome all kinds of suggestions and feedbacks. Last, do remember visit Mathwallet and try these new features. We also, within the Mathwallet, we launch a Candy Wheel program, which you have chance to win Bitcoin, Ether, or BNB for free. So remember to try your luck there. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you to Eric for showing us some seriously impressive stuff. You can tell the team really focused on building a great user experience here, and that's something that's going to be critical for any wallet looking to build a wider user base. And with that, we conclude day one of Binance Blockchain Week, Building the Future. There's a lot of exciting opportunities in the blockchain and crypto space, and there's no better time to get involved if you're a developer, builder, or creator.
We hope you enjoyed today's programming, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow Binance on YouTube and Twitter to keep up with all the things that are going on this week. So we'll see you back here tomorrow, same time, 10 a.m. UTC, for day 2, the future of finance. So if you thought today was something, tomorrow is going to be massive. We've got some exciting stuff planned, which includes a live AMA with CZ, a fireside chat with Anthony Pompliano, and an array of panels and keynotes to look forward to. But before we sign off, we also wanted to give one last shout out to our sponsors for making Binance Blockchain Week possible. So thank you to our special sponsor Dodo, our grand sponsors Chromia, Frontier, EasyFi Network, AWS, Stratis, and Scale Network, and to our daily sponsors Mathwallet and Refinance. So to everyone watching, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone.